So it's a bit of an unusual Tuesday for us. We've kind of had a heartbeat going ever since we started this show, had a couple of schedule changes, including here in December, right? But it was just a weird day overall, not in like a bad way, but just like one of those days where it's like a little off kilter. And so I show up to the studio a little bit early before we start recording this. And fortunately, it was a little bit earlier because the first thing I noticed is like half the studio setup has basically fallen over, crashed into the ground. We don't know what's up with the camera. We don't know what's up with the lights. And it's gone directly into one of our monitors here, which is totally busted basically halfway through. And so I think it gets at a whole bunch of things and just wanted to bring that up because it is an interesting day.
Yeah. Well, shit happens sometimes. But today you sent me this picture of, basically usually $8,000 worth of gear on the ground. And all over, knocking everything. And so, what's funny though, I was first thinking about the camera, which is fine. It's actually pretty like hardy. But then I was thinking about our new setup, which I'm excited for. So this is the live stream. This is a Creator Secrets podcast. And, we've been going live here and there for literally 10 years. Me and Judy, different platform, different channels. But we're going into a new era. So I'm excited because part of that era is a new studio, a new setup, and then even new software. We're using vMix right now, but we're going to be changing everything up. So I thought, real fitting because you know what? This good old studio lasted us, 6 years now? And we're going to go into a new chapter. So yeah, it's about time we fix things up in
kind of in an unusual way for something to be auspicious, but it could be auspicious in terms of its timing and things like that. There's another angle here though, which is the importance of a studio setup, right? The importance or non-importance, depending on how you look at it, right? One of the things that you advocate for, of course, is vlogging, right? Which really requires almost no setup at all. In fact, your goal is to minimize the amount of setup that you have so that way you can record anywhere. Yeah. It's kind of the opposite of being in a studio in a lot of ways when you vlog. But you also have this studio, right? Like, as you said, you have this big pole fall over with a bunch of basically dollar signs attached to it, right? That have all fallen over. And there's also a reason for that as well. And I think that there's actually a relationship between the two, which is that the reason I think a lot of people benefit from having a studio is that having your gear set up and going to a place that's meant for recording is kind of an inspiration, or at least removes a hurdle to recording in the first place. And so to see the stuff falling over, of course, is the antithesis of that to some degree, right? But it is also, like we talked about, a little auspicious in terms of its timing. So, I mean, I know you talk a lot about in terms of your Osmo setup being something that's totally stripped down, something for your vlogging. It gets out of your way so you can get to content creation. Would you kind of agree with that the studio plays kind of the mirror image role in terms of your setups for your life, how you record?
Yeah, and the studio came after I went from low-key vlog setup and wanted to start teaching creators, coaching creators. And so it kind of evolved to have this direction. And we were blessed to have the resources to do all this when we built it. But more and more, I think that you don't need the studio. Even if you want a studio, we're going to be doing a setup in 2026, which is going to be a tenth of the cost, if that, and it'll be way lighter. And that includes even my cooking setup. So that's exciting. But my thought when I think about having a setup, it's not the equipment only, or the like in this case, a desktop computer running software and all that. It's also the environment. Just saying, in a place where you don't have distractions. My number one challenge at home is I have kids, 5 of them, and then my wife, and we live in that house. So today I wanted to do a cooking live stream. I didn't tell you this yet, but almost no way to do it. Like the kitchen was a mess. Kids are hanging out. Judy had a friend over. So it just wasn't a good environment. So having a place where you can record is just important so that you can just flip on the camera. Yeah. And as you get going, I was talking to a creator today who was saying that one of the things that makes him different than other creators is his audience values his opinion. And they have a relationship with him. They trust him. When you get to that point where people just want to hear your take on things, your perspective, you definitely should have a setup where you can just flip on the thing. Because, more and more, you're probably perfectly positioned to do a podcast, but it doesn't have to be a crazy setup. Yeah. It just has to be a setup that you can fire up at any given time, even if it's your phone. But then the question is, where is that? Well, because I think more practically, most people, their number one challenge besides the gear and knowing how to go live or create content, it's just where to do it, you know? So I love to have the studio, but even at home, even though we vlog, it's still a challenge. So just having a place that's quiet, that's why I love having a place where I can do that, including this. Even with the thing all halfway damaged, we got it back up. We're here, and so we're live.
Yeah, very true. And you know, I initially thought when it knocked over, I was like, okay, it was the holiday break. We'd been out of there for a long time. It fell over because we were out for a long time. Actually, no, we recorded last week. It's a normal cadence for us and things like that. But it does point to the fact that it has been the holiday season. And actually, how I wanted to open the show is telling you about something that I experienced over the kind of short little break that we had there between Christmas and this is the day before New Year's Eve. So we were talking about gifts. And I had a friend who had a dad, actually, that was asking for a very specific set of attire, basically. It was kind of like, they're a fan of stick shift cars. By the way, I drive a stick shift car, so I totally understand. It's fun to drive, right? But they had this kind of weird, obscure, like gearbox, preservation, advocacy shirt on their Christmas list. So we were talking about it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's cool that he has that. Like, the design is really interesting to me. And I was like, how did he find it though? Like what was the pathway to it? I'm like, it seems kind of like an Instagram purchase to me. Like, you find that type of thing on Instagram where it's very niche, very specific to your needs. Like, nope, doesn't use Instagram, doesn't use TikTok, doesn't use Facebook, no social media, except for one kind of more internet native platform, which is YouTube. And in particular, they were mentioning that they watch shorts. Now, I was a little bit blown away by this because this is the type of person who really does not seem like they would be into short style content. They're sort of, like I said, not very online. They're sort of very focused on a particular, set of interests that they have. They're very serious, kind of in like an engineering profession and things like that. And not any of that excludes you from watching shorts, but I just never in a million years would have necessarily guessed it for this person in particular, just because they are so offline overall. But lo and behold, they watch YouTube. They have the YouTube app on their phone. And so eventually they end up watching shorts. Now, I don't know exactly if that's how they discovered it, but we ended up talking about that for a little bit. I was like, what's funny is like my dad is also the same way. He doesn't have Facebook, doesn't have Instagram, never really watches TikTok, doesn't have any of these other social platforms. But he does have a YouTube account and he does watch shorts. So it's just amazing how many people are watching shorts. And so more and more, it reminded me of one of the big things. We're at the end of the year here. One of the biggest things I learned this year is how much money YouTube is making from shorts, which is crazy to think. And to me, it's a little vignette, a little anecdote that shows just how many people are watching shorts. The people who aren't really watching anything else still are on YouTube, first of all, which is the big takeaway. But in particular, a kind of smaller and interesting takeaway is that they're also on shorts. There's one other thing before I hear your response, which is that I actually have another friend who was talking to me, and they were kind of telling us a story. And he was like, hey, the other day I was on shorts, and then he paused for a second, and he was like, almost like he was a little embarrassed, I guess is what I would say. He's like, I don't usually go on shorts. Like, I'm usually on TikTok instead, but I was on shorts and I saw this funny thing. And then he went on to explain. And it doesn't even matter what he was talking about in particular, but I just thought it was funny that, again, even for someone who like had, kind of almost observes a kind of stigma almost in some ways, not that there really is anyone, but they just feel sort of one, that they also are on shorts as well. So my friend's dad who has no other social is on shorts. My dad who has no other social is on shorts. And this other person who doesn't even want to be on shorts is on shorts. And to me, that's telling as to why YouTube has been so successful with their shorts feed, which is sort of surprising to hear.
Yeah. It's funny that there's a stigma around short form content, of course, because it revolves around TikTok and Brain Raw and just the slop that's on there, and Reels and Shorts falls into that. But more and more, and even myself, I catch myself really falling into the algorithm of Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts because I don't use TikTok, and not necessarily being embarrassed, but I'm realizing, man, it's like this algorithm's good at keeping my attention. But as a creator, creating shorts is not for the views as much as it is for the discovery. The fact that, like you said, this guy who's not usually on shorts, because he's on YouTube, it's so easy to click on that. You don't even know what you're doing, because if you think about the YouTube feed, you're just always swiping through to find your video that you're going to watch, usually classic long form YouTube videos. And if the shorts thumbnail's on there, even if you don't even know what it is, it's so catchy, so
Totally.
good at getting your attention that you will click on it and you will watch it. You might not even call it YouTube Shorts as a viewer. And that is powerful because to you, it's just another YouTube video. That's
true.
where Shorts has a lot more power. In addition, or like separated from TikTok, Instagram Reels, that the other platforms don't have, is the fact that you can go from this short form content to long form content. And as a creator, again, what did I say? Discovery. That is the true benefit of YouTube Shorts as a creator, because it doesn't pay that well, even though I know it's paying a little bit more now. And two, it does get you followers, which is a different kind of followers, but that discovery is unmatched.
Yeah.
And think about this. What do almost all TikTok creators want? They want YouTube channels. So what do? They start YouTube channels and they promote it to their TikTok audience.
Yeah.
It almost never migrates over. It doesn't like connect. But with YouTube Shorts, it's way easier to do it. But even if they don't, all it is like doing for you is just helping you get more exposure to audiences that wouldn't have otherwise found you because they're watching only shorts, but then they're maybe discovering your long form content.
Yeah, like those three people that I mentioned, the two dads and my friend, right? The fact that they all ended up on Shorts without even necessarily wanting, like intentionally wanting to be on Shorts, is evidence of the fact that those three people are kind of a microcosm of the broader YouTube community who's finding themselves on Shorts. By the way, I was thinking there's a story in here to talk about in terms of watching on the phone in particular, right? Like I'm way more likely to slip into watching Shorts on my phone than I am on the computer. In fact, to the extent to which, by the way, this is a life hack. You can turn on a 15-minute time limit for Shorts on your phone, and it'll like literally just stop showing you Shorts in your feed and also on the homepage as well.
How?
So, I think it's in the settings somewhere.
For YouTube?
Yeah, inside of YouTube. So if you don't like seeing Shorts on your phone or you find yourself getting sucked in, it's a good way of limiting your time on there. So that's your news you can use for the day. Let's get into an announcement for the day as well, because on the opposite end of short form is long form, which is, of course, what we have been advocating for a very long time here. For those of you who've been around for a while, you know that we have a course called Vlogging Academy. And maybe if you've been around for longer than that, if you're a part of our newsletter or part of any of our messaging lists or anything like that, just a friend of ours, you'll know that back in October, we did our first ever challenge called the Vlogtober Challenge. This was inspired by Benji's start on vlogging for, how many years at this point, right? Over a decade, right? Benji and Judy got started way back in the day in a challenge that was called Vlogtober, where a bunch of YouTubers would go and they'd vlog for 30 days straight, right? From the beginning of October to the very end, every single day. And we wanted to revive that a little bit with what we call the new vlogging method. And so we're bringing back the Vlogtober Challenge. Of course, it's not Vlogtober. And so it is now, for the beginning of the new year, the Vlogging Academy Challenge. We call this our kind of sampler offer. It gives you a little bit of a taste of everything that us at Creator Secrets has to offer. We offer a little bit of coaching, courses, Q&A, all throughout the course of 5 days, packed into the densest, most transformative period of time that we can muster at the lowest price that we offer any of our products. So just to give you a taste of it, one of the things that we offer, and we'll be talking about this throughout the show, one of the things that we offer is, of course, our Vlogging Academy. The Vlogging Academy Fundamentals course is what we call it, which is two things. Number one, the philosophy of Benji's new vlogging method, which is how to take advantage of the best opportunity on YouTube in the easiest way possible, especially for beginners, whether you're a total beginner creator or even if you're kind of a beginner just on YouTube. We think it's the easiest way to get started on YouTube. And it shows you the philosophy behind how Benji has A, revived his channel, B, tuned up some of the kind of old vlog on his other channel, and then also taught hundreds of other students this new method, some of which who have told us that they have had a totally transformed career potentially because of this. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, you can visit vloggingacademy.com. If you want to check out the challenge specifically, visit vloggingacademy.com/challenge, which will be in the description below. Again, we're going to be talking more about this throughout the course of the show, but you get access to our 3T modules by signing up. That's just one of the things that we offer as part of the Vlogging Academy Challenge. Again, thanks to the students of Vlogging Academy, as always, for supporting the show. One of let's get into some follow up now. We always get to follow up here. One of the things that we talked about last week that you actually pushed me out on, Benji, is how YouTube is getting a $50 billion rush of money, basically. That there's a potential for all of that money that is currently in broadcast and cable to come right on over to YouTube. And one of the things that you brought up is that, well, that $50 billion might go over to Facebook, it might go over to Twitter, right? It might go over to Instagram and things like that. It might be spread across these things. And I made the case that advertisers actually do think of these things kind of as buckets, and that, yes, they will probably change over time, but that I think it's safe to say that a lot of the portion of that $50 billion is going to be split amongst the TV viewing in particular on YouTube, on Netflix, on Disney, on Prime, basically. Those are kind of the big four that I can think of. The Verge, a few years ago, they are a top news publication, and they changed their entire homepage to basically replicate a Twitter-style feed. So any of their journalists could go and they could post to their main feed, and they would be posted like a tweet. So it would have like a little bit of text and then maybe an attachment like a photo or a video or a link or something like that. And then they would kind of have a quick little quip about it, like you might if you were tweeting about something. One of the reasons that they did this is because at the same time, Twitter was being taken over by Musk, and there was a bunch of advertisers that were fleeing from Twitter at the time because of the uncertainty and looking for other places to advertise. And so based off of the thing that you were saying before, you might assume, well, hey, maybe they'll go over to like Facebook, for example. That's pretty close to Twitter, right? Maybe they'll go to Snapchat because it's also social media to some degree, right? Or maybe they'll even go over to Instagram because it's their kind of feed, short form style thing. And the answer was that most of them did not. They actually went to other places that were kind of like Twitter. Now, the unfortunate thing was that at the time, there were only a few places to go. Threads was just launching as a competitor to Twitter. That is Meta's competitor. Or Instagrams, you could even say.
Do they have advertising on Threads?
They did not at the time, and that was a big deal. And they are just starting to, but they did not at the time at all. Mastodon was another, totally against advertising overall. There's a bunch of nerds over there who are all super anti-advertising, and so there was none over there. And so there was very few places for these ad dollars to go. And so The Verge sees this, and they're looking for a place to have their tweets, but they also are business-minded and saying, guess what? We know that there's a bucket to tap into right now of live social adjacent posts that can be tapped into for all those budgets that were apportioned for Twitter in the past. And so what they found, and this is both from the editor-in-chief and from the overall kind of business people who own the kind of The Verge and other kind of publications around them, that they call them quick posts or the story stream. Their quick posts are their most sellable and most lucrative advertising format. That's beyond all of the other traditional advertising that you would see on a newspaper, for example, like the New York Times. And so because they were able to tap into those big budgets that were originally portioned for Twitter, it got them off the ground actually and was able to kickstart this new format of post that they created on their website because they've tapped into that same bucket. So what does this mean for creators, right? Well, they also advertisers also think the same way about TV. If you're trying to reach an audience that is on TV, you want to actually use that same money for the place that the viewers are going to when they leave traditional broadcast and cable TV. And so that's why I think that YouTube has a really good opportunity to take over in terms of having that $50 billion basically check that's coming over from the old side of TV, and why it will not most likely go to the other traditional social platforms. Now, I know you talked with somebody today who was talking about the importance of advertising to people where they're at and the importance of matching the format to the actual advertising dollars. Can you tell me a little bit about what you learned and how that kind of lines up with what we're talking about?
Yeah, well, when a company wants to advertise, they don't just do it one way. And that includes influencer marketing. There's different layers of brand deals, I guess you could say. And so you can have the same company paying different levels of rates for different formats, or even the same format, dependent on where they perceive that creator and their content to line up. For example, there's some creators that are going to be more top level, surface, just gets you like they say like 7 like touch points is how long it takes to sell. Well, maybe 3 of those are just brief, right? They could be like quick, like views on a TikTok, or maybe you go viral a lot, but you don't really connect with the creator. It's just like
There's something that you see in your feed.
It might be like slop, honestly, right? Based off of like some people's definitions. Respect to the creators that go viral. I mean, that's a skill in itself. And then there's some creators where maybe they're not getting as many views, even in the same format, or maybe long format, but you're watching more of it. You've got a deeper connection. You might trust these people, so you might get paydays that doesn't seem balanced compared to those other people that get more views. Well, they're just picking and choosing based off of their strategies and the way they want to go about making those 7 touches on how to spend money. So it's never black and white. It's never always just one way, and every company is a little bit different in their strategy. So that was kind of the general takeaway from my conversation with the creator who's like, is doing this. And I mean, that's not new. That's always been the case. It's just, I think some people, especially creators, when they think about, how much they're charging or how much money is in this opportunity with this specific brand, they just think like it's equal across the board when it's not. And honestly, not all creators are equal too. And this is why, as a creator, you have to find what is your unique value. Obviously, number one, to the audience, because that makes you more valuable to them compared to all the other creators. Yeah. And then on the flip side, what makes you valuable to the optimal brand that lines up with your audience that you're connected to, because you might be missing huge opportunities or undercharging because you're just not lined up correctly. And so that's marketing 101.
Totally.
Basically.
And I think that the interesting thing about that is that the lesson you learned is at the level of the creator at first, right? So who are you? Who are you reaching? And what are the ways that you and a brand can align in order to reach the audience that you both want to connect with, right? That's the real interesting part about it being a creator. Part of that is about reaching them in a format that they're at a particular time of day, for example, right? So in the past, that would have been on the computer or on the iPad or on the phone if you were watching long-form content on YouTube. More and more on the phone, it's actually just short-form content, whether that be YouTube Shorts, as we discussed, or TikTok, or Instagram Reels, or Facebook Reels, or anything like that. And so knowing how the people watch your content and how that might play into an advantage for you at a particular place in terms of your connection between the audience and the brand, that is where your secret sauce is going to be when you execute on brand deals. And that's also why it's going to be such a lucrative year for creators in 2026 and beyond, because all that money that's coming from traditional TV, it needs a place to go. And that becomes an opportunity for you, if you are the kind of smart creator that you're kind of painting a picture of, Benji, to take advantage of all of that flood of money coming over to, as they call it, connected TV viewing.
Can I say one more thing on this note? Since we're talking about 2026 and brand deals, one of the big takeaways from this year and going into next year and thinking about how do creators position themselves to get more brand deals or get the best brand deals, understand that everything that worked before is not the way it is now. And like for us, we had the privilege, right, and the benefit of literally just so many brand deals coming to us. Yeah. It's not like that. I mean, for different reasons. I'm not going to go into why that is, but we had to go back to pitching brands. I haven't done that since 2010 or 2011. Nothing wrong with that. I don't care. I actually enjoy talking to brands, starting the conversation and then pitching my idea. But what I found out is the creators who are getting the best brand deals, how many of them are pitching ideas? So it's not as simple as before where you just have to get tons of views and have a huge audience and then bam, you're going to get brand deals. I still think that is the case because we have that happen to us too. Yeah. But it's skewing more towards who's pitching these, agencies and these brands, the idea that's the winning idea. See, before the ideas came from the agencies. Totally. Yeah. And then they were going and pitching the brands, whether the brands hire them and then they get pitched the idea, or the brands have an idea, take it to the agency, and then the agency kind of makes it better and then executes on it. And then they find creators. I actually think it's the other way around because there's so much respect for creators now. And creators creators are just keep going and doing better and just so nimble. And I think that the economy has gotten so tough that they have to pull back, and the brands, and they're more discerning with how they spend money, including with advertising. So they have to be very careful. So it's not like a guaranteed what worked on TikTok for you. Here, let me turn this off. Need to get a new one of those too.
Like we said, the studio has been weird lately. It's a weird day.
Okay, but what worked for these brands before isn't working now, and so if you have a good idea, I think they're more keen on listening to it.
Totally.
But you might have to pitch a lot. I'm telling you, I'm pitching almost as much as I was back in the early days. And I thought it was unique to me for some reason. And more I'm talking to creators, and the ones that are getting some of the best opportunities, they're also pitching too, or their agencies are pitching them, you know?
Yeah, and that makes total sense to me, because as ad tech gets better too, you just think about people who would have been just kind of throwing money at a bunch of creators thinking, hey, we're just going to get a lot of views. We're going for reach. Well, first of all, a lot of that money is probably going to short form, right? To some degree, right? They're getting more reach for cheaper across more creators, across more, kind of opportunities and touch points on that 7-point journey that you talked about beforehand. But even then, if it's not a brand deal, they might just be going to the platforms themselves and saying, I'm going to spend the money and just get as high number of reach as I possibly can across the pre-roll ads that are on a YouTube video, the mid-roll ads that are on a YouTube video, even sometimes a feed ad that you might find inside of like a TikTok or something like that, which speaks at kind of the weird place between both the creators and the platforms that a lot of this money is going to be flowing, right? Like, is it going directly to creators? Is it going to be going to platforms? And I think that brings us to a discussion of kind of what's happening on the platform level. Another question that you asked me last week was, well, with all the things going on with Netflix, how many people are actually watching on the phone versus the TV? Because you were thinking, well, Netflix, most people are watching on the TV in the first place. So Netflix is not really a competitor to, for example, like YouTube, who has a shorts feed on the phone. And I have a slight answer for you. It seems like it's a kind of an industry secret at this point, which makes sense, right? People don't necessarily want people to know this, but here's what I found from Nielsen, who is kind of the #1 company for measuring these types of things, about a kind of international view into things, which I think is probably a good proxy for what might be happening in the US and worldwide. But this is just one like kind of region, basically. So first of all, Google, which is what they've listed as, but it's actually YouTube, has a 29% screen share time in this country and a 71% other screen. So that's like computer, phone, iPad, etc. Now, keep in mind, this is not watch time, this is not views. It's kind of a weird combination of the two, but their methodology says that it's kind of like 30-70, basically, from TV to everything else.
30% is television viewing of their content, and 70% is devices like computers to phones of their content.
Everything other than TV. That's exactly right. Meta, of course, on the other side, you should probably be able to guess this one. It's 100% on other screens, right? It's from your phone to your computer to your tablet, basically, right? Netflix, and this is the one that you asked about, is basically the mirror image, but more extreme than YouTube, which is 83% on the TV and 17% on other screens. So you can think of it as kind of a mirror image that YouTube is growing on the TV right now, and they're really expanding that, but they also have reach across a lot of other things. In terms of pure scale, they're sort of dominating almost every layer in terms of the device that you're watching on. Netflix is much more heavily biased towards just TV viewing alone. They don't have a ton of viewing on the phone. They do get some of that. They don't have a ton of viewing on the computer. They do get some of that, but they are basically 80%, 85% in this case, on the TV. So that answers your question last week about the Netflix phone versus TV split.
And I saw that graphic when you showed it to me, and I was still surprised how many people are consuming Netflix on their mobile device, or I guess other devices.
Almost 20%.
Almost 20%, but that includes computers too.
It does, yes.
It does, but still, it just shows you how tied to the TV Netflix is, and where YouTube is a little bit more. I mean, in this case, it's kind of crazy how many other devices, because what we do know from the stats that YouTube tells us is, even though in this graph it shows, what'd you say, like 30% television?
Yes.
that I think that doesn't really show the full picture, no pun intended.
Oh, I totally agree.
It's more vast than that. And that I think that percentage will grow more aggressively for them than Netflix will grow. You get what I'm saying? Like, will change. Yeah. And so...
and you have to remember, right, these percentages are also within their own platform, right? So it's not saying like, oh, they're competing against each other. I mean, they kind of are in a very slanted way, but like this is within Netflix. This is a certain percentage is on each of them. Not like YouTube is eating up this much percentage and Netflix is eating this percentage.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm assuming you're going to show the graph, but it's all very interesting because these numbers weren't being shown before. It wasn't even something that people cared about.
Totally.
It was only really till this year the conversation more broadly was around this, especially when it comes to percentages. And this is why I think still my biggest takeaway for 2025, TV. The TV, it doesn't matter what the size is, right? Some people, they got the 35, 40-inch TV, right? The $75 Black Friday special on the tiny thing, or you got the 98-inch TV that you can buy for like under $1,000 TCL.
Yeah.
But that is just going to keep growing. And even today, the discussion that I had around content creation, how I said there was 2 huge changes for just the content environment, but especially YouTube, that changed everything. In 2020 to 2025, it was 100% short form content. TikTok, Reels, and Shorts changed the whole game, skewing to more overly produced content, obviously shorter attention spans. And then in 2025, the pendulum swinged, and then it was all about longer videos and how you don't even want to watch a TikTok on your TV. And so those contrasting kind of opposing forces, you would think kind of like makes it difficult for creators, but on YouTube, it's actually an opportunity for creators more than it is a negative. You would think like a one side or the other is going to hurt. No, short form creators, shorts are going to grow in opportunity. I think that the numbers are out that they're making more money through AdSense than ever before.
Yes.
And YouTube is still going to develop that, make it grow because it's significant. And I know this because it's showing up in my feed.
Totally.
But then on the other side, longer videos is going to have even more upside, even more growth, even more opportunities, ones that we can't even see. And then everything in the middle is just, classic YouTube. This still exists. And that's what's crazy. YouTube is not a platform anymore. It's the TV.
It is the TV.
It's crazy. And that world, we can't even fathom as these, like, little old YouTubers.
Yeah, I mean, the thesis on this show, at least that I've had, I think that maybe you're on board with it too, is that YouTube has become the broadcast TV, the kind of bunny ear antenna version of TV, just way better than that ever was, right? More options than ever before, higher quality than ever before, like just awesome stuff basically on YouTube. And it's here for free, which is what those bunny ear antenna things were for. On the flip side, you have Netflix, which is kind of more of the cable version of it. But you have like Netflix competing with Disney, competing with Prime, et cetera, all the way down the stack. And that's because you're paying for that content, right? It's more scripted stuff. It's maybe fewer ads for now, and things like that. And actually, it brings up something that you sent me over the Christmas break, which is that you saw an image of Netflix this year was broadcasting the Christmas games, 2 of the Christmas games, not all 3, because the third one was on Prime, by the way, which is new for everybody this year. But on the halftime show, they had a banner that showed, of course, the Netflix logos on both sides.
Weird.
And right in the middle, there was a Google with like Christmas lights on it, which was really interesting. So they must have been the halftime sponsor or something like that, which you were just like, this is weird.
Weird in the context of the conversations we have, how Google and Netflix are the major competitors to each other for the attention of just,
TV viewing. Yeah.
And to see them Thursday night football, was it?
Well, it was Christmas football, whatever.
Christmas football.
Yeah.
And then for both of them to be on that banner, I wonder if that was ran by the execs up top or somebody just thought, hey, they're the sponsor, just to put them all together. Now, at the end of the day, is that really a big deal? It's not even something that I think we should tell creators to pay attention to.
Totally.
It's just funny because in the world of, good example would be in the world of, broadcast television or cable TV, you would never see that. You wouldn't see like HBO and Showmax, what is it?
Showtime?
Or
Yeah.
whatever, right next to each other.
Yeah, it's very rare. Yeah.
When would you ever see like on a banner sponsoring a piece of content that you just wouldn't see that? But in this world, this digital age, I don't know. It was just an interesting kind of moment.
I think the thing that it points to me is that the dollar signs are so big in terms of them coming into the connected TV space that it just benefits everybody to have the money flowing in and for everyone to know about connected TV, right? Of course, it was Google, not YouTube, that was sponsoring it. But it's true that ultimately Netflix and Google
It would
are
have
the
been
competitors.
weirder if it was YouTube.
100%.
It would have been way weirder if it was a YouTube logo in between the Netflix logos.
But it gets at the thing that we were originally talking about here, which is that the competition here is for TV viewership. And we're going to talk about that in depth here in a second, which I teased before the show to Benji and Neutrally. But I did want to bring up one other thing about Netflix, which is just to think about where their incentives are right now, right? So back in the day, Netflix was 100% subscriber-based. You paid for, I think there was only one tier of Netflix at the beginning, and you got to stream whatever content they had at the all-you-can-eat buffet, as the Blockbuster CEO taught us last week, right? But how do they grow if you are a subscription-based model? There's only two ways you can grow. The first one is to grow the number of people who are subscribed, right? But guess what? Everybody has Netflix now. There's really no more growth left in the number of subscribers that you have. So what else can you do? Well, if you're only subscription-based, you can raise the price of your subscription product. That's the other way you can grow. Of course, there's only so much tolerance for that as well. In fact, everybody's experienced that over the past 20 years. Oh, Netflix raised their prices again. It's even more expensive now. I mean, what are we up to at this point? Like $15, $20 for a premium subscription?
No, it's crazy. No, I think the other day helped my parents set it all up, and it can be as high as like $24-25 to get the 4K.
Like the full package, basically.
Yeah, the full package.
So what has Netflix...
No ads, by the way.
Exactly, and that's where we're getting to, which is that how are they growing now? Well, the only growth, if you have ruled out price increases and if you've ruled out more people subscribing, is to make a lower priced product, sometimes free, in like the case of like Google or YouTube or a lot of these social platforms. But in the case of Netflix, a lower priced product supported by ads. So all of their growth is going to come from ads. And so what does that mean for them, right? How do you grow your revenue based off of ads? Well, you have a lot more options in that case. Get more advertisers, get higher paying advertisers, right? But really, the thing that you want to do is increase the number of places you can put ads. And there's really only a couple ways you can do that. We're going to rule out growing the number of people subscribed because we know that that's gated by the subscription cost. The number one way is to get people to watch more and for longer in particular. And we are, as YouTubers, are very familiar with that battle, which is that you want people watching all day long. And I'm going to put a pause there and tease you that I have an answer for what Netflix is doing, why they've been acquiring all these podcasts, and it has to do with that. But let's get to a quick break here because we have to shout out the Vlogging Academy Challenge one more time. At the top of the show, you heard us advertise that we have relaunched our Vlogging Academy Challenge, which is the entire buffet of options, to use that term again, of what Creator Secrets has to offer. Right now, I want to give you the menu, basically. Before I mention to you that we are offering access to Vlogging Academy Fundamentals, which is our groundbreaking course that breaks down Benji's new vlogging method, the new system designed for the new era of YouTube. But you're going to get even more than that if you join us for the Vlogging Academy Challenge, which starts in January. Here's what you'll get. You'll get daily challenges, which are designed to get you off the ground. They call it uploading for a reason. You get daily Q&A office hours with both Benji and I, which is a chance to get your questions answered by the YouTube veteran, Benji Travis, who's sitting right across from me, and the Creator Secrets team. And then at the end of the week, you'll also get capstone group coaching, which is kind of the cherry on top of things. It's something that we really only offer in our group coaching offerings. We did also offer it in these challenges as well, but it really gives you a taste of what it feels like to get truly coached by someone like Benji, who's been around for a really long time. So again, daily challenges, daily Q&A, access for lifetime to Vlogging Academy Fundamentals, which teaches you the new vlogging method, and the capstone group coaching call at the end of the week, just for $97, which again is I think is a killer deal. I think it's the best. First of all, it's the lowest price we offer for all this stuff, but also you're getting so much packed into those 5 days, and it's everything that you need to get kicked off the ground. Benji, anything that you want to say about your experience?
Yeah. Obviously, if you want to vlog, the course that comes along with the challenge is obviously a huge resource. But one of the benefits is you're going to get me, and you're going to get in contact with me in these group coaching sessions, and I just go off. Okay, you got your questions, boom, 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 boom. Frankly, most creators, especially if you're a beginning creator, they want access to somebody that has experience and knows how to do it right now. I am vlogging right now. I'm vlogging in 2 different channels, and I would say we're doing pretty well, right? Using my new vlog method. So if you want to know as a beginner, or even like maybe a seasoned creator on TikTok that wants to start a YouTube channel, I can answer it all, and that's what you're going to get. I think that's one of the biggest value points of these challenges. I don't do very many. And so because of the new year, because I know people have goals, and for almost all creators that aren't already on YouTube, YouTube is almost always the number one, but it's the one that either is perceived as being the hardest or the one that gets procrastinated on the most. And maybe both of those kind of correspond with each other. It's my goal to make it so that you don't avoid it, and you do it in a way that's easier. And this can be for anybody. The entrepreneur that wants to start YouTube, but maybe they can't commit to literally going all in on content creation. Guess what? Vlogging is a great way to get your foot in the door, get your reps in. I'm teaching you how to do that. Say you're a seasoned creator that's already busy, ironically doing short form content production, and you want to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to show you a method. I understand how busy it is as a creator. And then lastly, just for anybody that maybe has struggled with YouTube, maybe you don't realize you're competing against all these crazy high production channels. Even when it looks like it's just a single person, you don't see the teams. Well, man, my method is meant for the one-man band. I am literally the one-man band. Shout out to my editor. He makes it so it's a 2-man band, but it's minimal. I make it so it's easy for him to edit. Oh yeah, I've got Nuclear over here too, but that's a whole nother conversation with live stream. So Vlogging Academy, the challenge, the biggest value is not only do you get access to me, I get to talk to you. I get to kind of guide you. So I'm excited to do that. And so make sure you sign up at the link or wherever you want to send them.
Yeah, you can go to vloggingacademy.com/challenge to learn more. The challenge runs January 5th through 9th. This is limited. We've only ever offered one before. We don't plan on doing these very often because they take a lot of our time and they're super intensive. But we think it's important enough to get it done at the beginning of the year this year. So again, sign up at vloggingacademy.com/challenge. The link is in the description. And our thanks to the students of Vlogging Academy who make this show possible. I've teased it before the break, and I want to get to it now because I was just reading a article from the New York Times. It just popped up actually on the homepage, in the front page, I guess you could say, of the New York Times. And the headline was, YouTube has a firm grip on daytime TV. And they were talking about it in the context of Netflix. So I want to read you from this piece because, Benji, I think you're going to love a lot of these things that they brought up because they interview some people who are just plain old YouTube watchers. Speaking of which, at Nancy Ann Ling's home in Central Texas, the TV generally goes on around 5 a.m. And Mrs. Ling flips over to the same app every single day, YouTube. For many hours after that, the app keeps running. As she prepares breakfast, Miss Ling and her husband stream the previous night's monologue from Stephen Colbert or Seth Meyers. After her husband heads off to work, she finds comforting background noise for meditating. By the afternoon, she tunes into cycling videos as she exercises and later turns to YouTube channels of local news outlets while she cooks. But when the sun goes down, YouTube goes off. Mrs. Ling, 57, scrolls into an app like Apple TV or BritBox for scripted entertainment. And Mrs. Ling's viewing habits mirror those of millions of Americans. That's how I'm going to get us started. And basically, the remainder of the piece goes on to say, hey, Americans are treating YouTube, as you said, Benji, as the new broadcast TV. But importantly, it's happening during the daytime. So let me read this second piece, and then I want to hear your thoughts. Much of YouTube's lead, though, comes from its dominance during the daytime, adding a challenge for media and streaming executives who are trying to puzzle through how to close a widening gap. YouTube's gaining ground. At 11 a.m., for instance, YouTube has had an average audience of about 6.3 million views in October. So 11 a.m., 6.3 million views, Nielsen said. Netflix's audience is less than half of that, 2.8 million.
At 11 a.m.
At 11 a.m. Amazon has about 1 million viewers at that hour, and some streaming services like HBO Max, Paramount Plus, and Peacock draw fewer than 600,000 views. YouTube, which is owned by Google, continues to hold a commanding lead as the day progresses. It is only in primetime hours that the competition narrows significantly. Netflix's average swells to over 11 million viewers at 9 p.m., only a bit behind YouTube, who has 12 million at the same hour. Other large services like Amazon, Disney, and HBO Max also close in on YouTube's lead during prime time before YouTube's dominance begins again into the overnight hours and continues on into the next day.
Can I say something?
Please do.
Why do you think YouTube isn't farther ahead at 9 p.m. in the evening hours?
It's exactly what we talked about at the beginning of the show, which is viewing behavior. People are coming home and then they plan on watching their show, basically, sometimes with a partner, sometimes on their own.
So for sure. And so they're picking Netflix because that's where the shows are. That's where the movies are. I pick Netflix all the time. In fact, I watched Star Trek the other day on Netflix because I wanted a legit movie. But part of this discussion in relation to YouTube is I totally would have picked YouTube if that movie or show was available on YouTube. And I'm not talking about Star Trek specifically because I didn't know I was going to go on to Star Trek and watch that whole movie, or at least only watch half because my daughter wanted to come down and watch Stranger Things on the TV, right? But the point is, if YouTube had more of that. So why creators need to hear that is because this is an opportunity for you. Today, I was telling a creator about the number for minutes. The length of your videos should be on YouTube. And I said 30 minutes. I said, guess what's better than 30 minutes? 60 minutes. Because when we're choosing what to watch, we choose in half-hour increments when it comes to the TV. And generally speaking, a half hour is usually your break, right? It's your lunch. It's when it's between different calls. An hour might not be that break. Yeah, an hour might be literally the evening, session. Probably, though, more so in the evening, you got 2 or 3 hours. And you know what's so crazy? I was talking to a creator that said this exact same thing. After I got done ranting about how 30 minutes, 60 minutes, hour, 2 hours, I say, so what's like a longer video that you've ever watched? He's like, dude, I watch videos that are 5 hours long. What he was talking about, live streaming.
Interesting.
I said, yeah, there's a reason for that. Because it's hard. It is difficult to make a 5-hour video. This is, by the way, a whole nother conversation. This is why live streaming has a huge opportunity on YouTube and just on other platforms. I actually think the ROI and the demand for live streaming is more so on YouTube than ever before. Okay. But going back to what I'm saying, longer videos. That's the only thing stopping people from choosing YouTube over Netflix. They would probably go to YouTube because they're already on YouTube, right? And if they know that there's a show that they can watch or binge watch, they would totally go over there. The reason Netflix wins in that evening hour, and they're not even winning, right? They're just barely behind, is because they have the shows, the proper movies. They have the content that is very bingeable, and YouTube is slowly catching up. That's not saying like that's where YouTube is losing. No, that's the opportunity for you, the creator, to create those shows.
I didn't even think about that.
It's to me, and again, like it's all your perspective, right?
Totally.
And some people would say, oh, well, do you really want to compete with Netflix? They're doing this whole production. No, the point is you can compete with Netflix. And so guess who else will love you if you create the shows and the movies? YouTube's algorithm, bro.
Yeah.
And they will suggest you in the evening because we know that the algorithm suggests shorter content in the morning because you don't have that much time. It's so smart and knows. And it probably doesn't even matter what device. But in the evenings, because they know you're more relaxing based off of your behavior, and they're like, oh my God, they're going to Netflix. I bet you they have data on where you go to after you leave YouTube. And if they know you're going to Netflix, it doesn't take a rocket science to know you're watching hour-long shows or movies are 2 or 3 hours long. What does YouTube need? They need more of that content. You do that for YouTube. It has to be legit, though. It has to be a good show or whatever that is. I am telling you, you will see a level of love from the algorithm that you don't see in any other type of content because it's just so rare to have that. And I think that's where, and this is why live streaming is an interesting conversation, because it's definitely way easier. I mean, me and Neutrally, I mean, you're included in this conversation, but like me and Neutrally, we could easily do a 2 or 3 hour cooking live stream.
Totally.
And not even skip a beat.
We will.
Right? Yeah, we will. We are going to do that. 2026. That's one of the things. Not only because some of my audience wants it. By the way, we're doing live streams where it's getting like after the fact 7 to 10,000 views. Okay.
Yeah.
With really only 1 to 2 hours of work. Now compounded by Neutrally. So my point is, what happens when that doubles or triples? And what happens when that becomes a behavior and a habit for my viewers, and now they have the option to stay on YouTube versus go to Netflix? Because I'm saying this could be the case for me, but more so one of the other creators listening to this, I guarantee you there is going to become a time, if you take advantage of this and you take it seriously, that people will choose to be on YouTube and watch your show for 2 to 3 hours versus go to Netflix and watch a random movie. That was a random movie. So anyways,
7 to 10,000 views, you're within striking distance of HBO Max, Paramount Plus, and Peacock at 600,000 views during that earlier into the day hours, which is crazy. We know creators who are on YouTube live streaming getting hundreds of thousands of views alone. Not even they're totally within striking distance by themselves. That's one creator.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy to think about. But you're gonna love what they say next in this, because they interview Sean Downey, who's a top Google sales executive, and he says YouTube provides a steady stream of entertainment for viewers no matter the time they decide to turn on. Here's what he says exactly. That is the kind of power of the platform, he said. We haven't thought about it. This is the craziest part. He's like just dropping the mic here. We haven't even thought about it as a daytime perspective. We just thought about it as this. We have great content that people can resonate with at the moment they want to. When they turn on their television, they'll find exactly what they're looking for that meets the moment that and the need that they have. So the executives are out here basically saying, we built the ultimate platform. We're not even concerned about Netflix. But I do think it points to an interesting thing, and this is why I bring it up in this show, especially at the end of the year. We have found the front line now. This is exactly what the battle is going to be, daytime versus nighttime viewing. Before we knew that there was a battle between Netflix and YouTube, but now we have a visual demarcation point for which for the point that happens, which is basically the nighttime hours, basically, where Netflix just barely begins to actually push the line back a little bit against YouTube, right? So you're right. The more you can make the content for those nighttime hours, it's going to get those views. The more the YouTube algorithm is going to love you, the more YouTube's going to love you. And it also points to something else, which is something you've brought up from very early on when we started making this point this year. And so let me quote again from the piece. Over the decades, daytime television's mix of talk shows, soap operas, cooking series, and easy entertainment like Judge Judy induced a sort of casual viewer. People could move around the house or tackle chores, folding laundry, paying bills, tidying up, with the TV providing ambient noise as the day passed. But it seems that YouTube is serving a similar role. Lots of viewing is happening during the day on YouTube, but it's not very attentive viewing, says Holland Willis, a senior analyst at T-Vision, a research group. T-Vision conducts research by deploying a camera with permission in 5,000 households to see what people are watching during the day. YouTube's attention scores are generally much lower than nearly all premium streaming apps, T-Vision found, suggesting that music playlists, programming for children, and other sorts of background noise content helps drive its viewership. Some YouTube creators are committed to dropping new videos during the daytime. Good Mythical Morning, a comedic variety show from the YouTube stars Rhett McLaughlin and Link Neal, posts each weekday at 6 a.m. A recent poll of its viewers found that a majority of people who tune in prefer to watch it while they are getting ready for school or work, during a lunch break, or to keep them company while doing other activities. Plenty of people also watch or listen to YouTube on devices other than a television screen, which is not included in the Nielsen ranking. So this is something you have talked about. Tell us about your couch viewers, your casual viewers, your chore viewers, your commute viewers, Benji, because you've been saying this for a year now, and the times have just caught up.
Yeah. If you think about how YouTube started, we're on a desktop computer and there was a screen. And that screen got bigger sometimes, but then the whole device changed to a laptop and eventually the iPad and the phone, okay? Went from a browser to an app. But generally speaking, what happened was as the the viewing of YouTube got more mobile, the screens got smaller and smaller. And what happened was 2020 lockdown, we're at home, the Chromecast function or even the smart TV YouTube app became more prominent. So now, rather than like it being in our pocket and maybe we cast the device, now what's happening is we're sitting on the couch and choosing to watch YouTube on the television. We're not even pulling out our phone. We're just going right to the YouTube app. That's parents. That's people obsessed with a certain hobby. That's just people that want to basically escape. And I call that the couch viewer, but it's more significant than that. Then it goes to the chore viewer, someone doing chores or doing a task around the house. You know, even just me in the backyard gardening, I'll have YouTube in my headphones. I'm not even watching it. This speaks to the power of audio on YouTube. It's ironic, right? It's not like an audio first platform, yet people will still consume it. So the visual isn't as important. And then even the commuter viewer, which is even more extreme because it's 100% only audio, because you're not supposed to watch the video and listen to it. So you're just having it on your Bluetooth speakers or on like headphones, whatever. Okay. So couch viewer, chore viewer, commuter viewer. Why those three types of viewers are really important to understand. They all want longer videos and they want longer content. And my theory over the course of the last 12 months, when I started saying this, is there is not just a demand for longer videos, hence why podcasts have done so well. I mean, to the point where I think podcasts are being consumed on YouTube more than everywhere else. It's just crazy how they're winning on all fronts, right? It's like they got a monopoly almost, right, in a way. But people now are ready because they have like a certain respect. I don't think they would call it that. Almost just, again, like a certain habit to pull up YouTube where they want shows and they want movies. I was saying the new superstars, right? TV stars, you know, Hollywood stars are going to be on YouTube. Here's an idea I have for a piece of content. Very low like production, but still would compete against the sitcoms of, you know, other platforms, streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, or even HBO. Like a new Office, the Office type of show.
Yeah.
Low production, right? And it's a whole cast of people. There's actually people that's doing this. There's a channel, I forget if it's on short form, but it's a coffee shop where the whole point of the show is the interaction between the customer and the barista. So there's only two shots. One shot of the person entering the store, coming up to the counter, and the other shot of the barista serving the person.
And it's like a sitcom?
Yeah, it's like a digital sitcom.
Interesting.
And that's it. There's only two shots. So it's not a lot of production. They're on different angles, and they made a show of it. That can go to any kind of environment, and that can become a show. I was talking to somebody that does comedy content, and I was saying, dude, if you're funny, you can do this on YouTube. And my suggestion, I don't even come from this world, but you have to almost follow the rules of TV. Pick a day that you're always going to have your show come out, right? Make it so that it's the same format. That coffee shop sitcom thing, why it works, it's like a promise of value that you get every single time. It's not random. So then people come back every single week to watch that show. If you can do it on the daily, that's even more powerful. So that's why low production is important, because the more reps, the better. The more bingeable it is, the better. And then, you know, you're off to the races, because then people will come back to YouTube, not just because they want something random. They want your show.
Yeah.
And the only thing stopping that from happening is producing the show. Why that was harder before is because it costs a lot to produce something like that. But with cameras like the Osmo and AI in editing tools and just like the world of that, and of course, guess what? Advertising being more prominent, I think it's more realistic. So you're going to see more things like that. Does that answer your question?
Oh,
Because
totally.
that's really my theory, that there's way more opportunity. Only thing stopping us from exploring that is doing it. Literally just doing it. I'll tell you, the number one thing that's changed with my vlogs on my food channel is just doing longer vlogs, and it's just way better. I'm doing less uploads with about the same amount of views, if not more AdSense, just because I have longer videos that serve more ads, hence why I'm making more money. So, and by the way, I don't choose where these ads are. It's all automated. It's all AI. We're going to discuss part of that later, but the point is, it's because there's a demand for it and there's a lack of supply. Whenever there's a lack of supply, you want to be the supply. Be the supply as a creator for long form or longer form or live stream content on YouTube.
You're reading my mind all over the place, because one of the things you brought up there was the podcast, right? The bottom line here is that the competition between Netflix and YouTube is a time-based event, basically. That's why I say we know where the front line is. YouTubers control the daytime and the overnight time. The only time where it gets competitive is that nighttime viewing slot. And so you talked about it from YouTube's perspective. Well, as a YouTuber, you should go to the place where Netflix is right now. But what about from Netflix's perspective? Well, they want the opposite. They want to march their way into the daytime slot, right? And so this is all a setup to say, this explains why they have acquired all of those podcasts from Spotify, from iHeartMedia. We've been tracking this story over the past several months on this show, basically. And here's what they say from this article. Netflix is bringing at least 34 video podcasts to its service next year, including The Breakfast Club, The Bill Simmons Podcast, Part of My Take, and My Favorite Murder. In September, Amazon added Travis and Jason Kelsey's popular New Heights podcast to Prime Video. This is all an intentional strategy. Roughly 75% of all podcast listening happens between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., according to Edison, a research firm. So this is the big takeaway for us, which is that, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. is actually a pretty good slot to be doing a podcast, because that's when most people are listening. But the real interesting thing, the real deep takeaway for all creators is that it's intentional. Netflix knows that they're losing to YouTube and that they have to compete on it by adding 34 video podcasts. That's a lot. Well, how many video podcasts do you think are on YouTube? I mean, hundreds, thousands?
Thousands, probably.
So 34 doesn't sound so big at that point in terms of their acquisition. Now, they're important ones, right? But it's not like Joe Rogan, where they're up way, way at the very top of the charts. Not like The Daily, where they're like that.
I want to say
either.
something about this, because it's been a theme on our podcast about these different properties, these different platforms, acquiring more content, signing contracts with creators, and where it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't pencil out. The math ain't mathing.
From Netflix's perspective.
For Netflix, for all these platforms, including whoever ends up buying Warner Brothers and whoever does these deals, they're always having to pay money for content to do it. We already said why YouTube wins. They don't have to pay anything. It's almost laughable that the scam that they're running, but creators are okay with it because it's kind of a good deal for us.
It's a win-win.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a win-win. Maybe not for the highest production type of people. Hence why they have to sell their own products to do brand deals. But especially for the beginner, it's a big deal. But this is where I think it gets even more significant. You said they signed 34 podcasts, right? How many new podcasts are started on YouTube that eventually, for free, will be as big as those 34 podcasts? And YouTube didn't have to pay a dime. They didn't have to do anything different. And that just keeps happening over and over. And even if Netflix signs those 34 channels, guess what? There's going to be 34 more channels. I'm just using this number of 34. I actually think it's worse. It gets more and more and more over time because YouTube's best like tool is making it free and easy for someone to start content or start a show.
As a creator,
as a beginner, even as a business, using it as a marketing platform. And that's just like no one else can like even touch it. This was a walled garden of sorts, maybe even more so. This was like a gate-kept industry. And they opened the door. They took all the walls down completely. Say, hey, come over here, right? Just if you got good stuff, we want to see it. And then we got a whole bunch of other people versus they protect that. And we're talking about Hollywood and broadcast television.
Yep.
And they're really powerful, those gatekeepers and whatever. And there's all these scandals around those type of people because they had too much power. What's weird is YouTube doesn't have any power. The people are the power. It's like the most democratic, free market kind of thing you could ever imagine, beneficial to the viewers. So going back to Netflix, How does Netflix compete against that? They have to create a premium product, which, to be fair, that's why people in the evening hours go to Netflix versus go to YouTube as much. But still, YouTube's still winning. Why is that? And I think this is going to be even more significant because the economy's slowing. People are tightening their budgets. They're being more discerning how they spend their money. And so the free option looks really good. And they're going to continue doing that. So, yeah. How do you compete against somebody creating products for free and you're having to spend billions of dollars to create a competing product? It's not going to work.
Yeah. So we've talked about it, right, from the Netflix perspective and from the YouTube perspective, but that's also why it's great for creators as well, is what you're getting at, right? It is the best time ever to get started on YouTube, right? And that's kind of what you're saying.
I almost feel like it's socialism in a way, but it's not. What I mean is this. There are less mega successful people on YouTube because more of the wealth, more of the opportunity, more of the money is spread out through
the entire system.
So smaller creators are getting like a payday versus on Netflix, only the biggest players are getting the paydays.
Yeah,
right?
and everybody else gets nothing because they're not.
Gets literally nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're shooting pilots. When you shoot a pilot, that thing could like become a thing right then and there.
But
on
you're
YouTube.
not. But you're talking about people who even get the chance to make pilot. Most people don't even get the chance to make anything for Netflix at all, even if they wanted to. So I mean, that's it. Think about the scale of that. The people who never make it over to Netflix. That's crazy.
Yeah. I think when I'm just thinking about the whole thing, I think that Netflix, Amazon Prime, all these other streaming platforms, Disney Plus included, will still exist. But the problem is Netflix is trying to kind of be, in a way, be YouTube, and they shouldn't play that game, and they never will be able to win that game.
Yeah.
YouTube, in a way, should play their own game, just up it. Meaning, like, I don't think YouTube will ever be the place you go for those premium movies, premium content, because they don't have the business model for those, studios or those people creating that type of content to pencil out.
Yeah.
But man, just because the people have voted, I'm okay watching somebody stuff their face full of like donuts for a whole hour, and that's entertaining for me. The sky's the limit for YouTube. See, what I'm saying is Netflix has they have a pie that's kind of limited and they're fighting everybody else for it. YouTube, we don't know what the limit is. It's unlimited right now for them. And as a creator, that's my signal to start doing content, because you don't know where your show that only gets 100 views right now could be a year from now, 5 years from now, especially when more and more people are knowing you can watch YouTube on the TV, are streaming content from their phone to the TV, and just know that you can get everything on the TV, or should we say on YouTube.
If you want to become Mr. Unlimited, the best place to go is to vloggingacademy.com/challenge and join us this January to be one of the students who learns how to do the new vlogging method. Because yes, podcasts are a great way to make longer content easier on YouTube to take advantage of this biggest opportunity ever, but so is vlogging, especially if you use the new vlogging method. You see, the problem with the old way of vlogging is that you already had to have an established audience. You needed people following you. You probably started your vlog on a second channel. Benji can speak to that because he lived it. He got to do that on his own. But he also knows that that's not a path that's gonna work for everybody. And so that's why Benji invented the new vlogging method, which takes what he calls the 3 T's and gives you a framework for ideating, researching, and creating videos from beginning to end. And that's all wrapped up in a course that we call Vlogging Academy Fundamentals. Here's what we have to say about the new system for the new era. Vlogging Academy Fundamentals is the system that Benji has designed for the TV era of YouTube, as you've been hearing about this entire show. It's built to be accessible, sustainable, and straightforward, all while being powerful enough to take you from 0 views to hundreds of thousands and beyond. We literally have students who have gotten there in their first couple of months. Definitely not going to be everybody, but it is a system that will help you get started. It's been taken by hundreds of students at all levels, and the new vlogging method combines the wisdom and expertise of YouTube's first 20 years with the vision for this new era of YouTube to take you into the next decade. If you want to be one of the students who joins us at our best deal ever for our lowest price, you can join us at vloggingacademy.com/challenge. Thanks to the students of Vlogging Academy who make the show possible. You mentioned one other thing, Benji, which is that there are people who want to who are going to be YouTubers who want to compete in that late night premium slot. And you even just mentioned, well, maybe there's not going to be a lot, but we've been tracking one group who has been doing this, which is Creator Camp. Creator Camp, as we've talked about many times on this show, got together just a group of friends who had an idea, who got a little bit of funding from an outside source, and went over to a TikToker, actually, of all things, and asked him, hey, will you write, direct, and act in a movie, basically, over the course of 100 days. And they went on a tour after they created their film. They're starting in Seattle, actually, represent here, and went on a small tour down to California and then New York, and had a bunch of theaters sold out, like, a few all over the place. And that was back in November, mid-November. Later on, in December 5th, they actually got to do a limited release. They signed with a distribution company who said, hey, let's try and get this to a few more theaters across and do another day-long slot where we can open this thing up. And it was pretty successful. They sold out a lot of theaters there as well. Actually, I went to go see it on that December 5th showing, and it was a pretty good movie. I was very impressed by this group of basically creators that had created a premium piece of content to show up with the idea of releasing it on YouTube. But before they release it on YouTube, they're going to continue their theatrical run, and they just announced a couple of things. So on their Instagram, they announced that they had created a trailer that was going to play in front of movies like Marty Supreme and some of the other things that were going on. But why would you play a trailer unless you had a place for them to go? Well, as it turns out, they also signed a deal with, it seems like Regal, the details are not super clear, to have a wide release, I think across the US, and again, the details aren't 100% there, almost everywhere is what they say, on January 23rd, and actually for the week after the fact. So they're doing it. It's a January release, so that, that's for, smaller releases, which makes sense for something like this, but it's a big deal from a creator's perspective. They had a tour, they had a theatrical release late in the year, and then they have an early release that's an actual wide release for this film to actually get some views and maybe recoup or make some money potentially on it. So I just wanted to bring that up because they're continuing to roll. They have this movie that's pretty good. People are really liking it, and it is showing up in real movie theaters. And guess what they're going to do after it? They're going to put it on YouTube. So it's amazing to me that this is happening. That's why I keep bringing it up on the show. They just had this announcement, but I'm curious about your thoughts.
Oh, so they're just getting more opportunities to show it in screens and potentially around the whole country. And maybe it's like a deal they signed with Regal to make money, but then eventually it does go up onto their YouTube channel.
That's what they've claimed. So the first run was 30 theaters. The second run was 24 theaters. And this one is a wide release across the country. They say pretty much everywhere that you can get access to it for not just a day, but for several days. And then, yes, they'll release it on YouTube is their claim.
Yeah, I think that there's two thoughts that I think about when I think about that. I'm going to take a screenshot of our vertical live right now on YouTube, because if you're listening to this or watching this, we are horizontal live on YouTube and we're vertical live on the YouTube Shorts feed, which is blowing my mind. Okay, number one, you can create an audience on YouTube that will want to support you, buy your product, or in this case, even show up to an event that has nothing to do with YouTube, okay, in person. That is not new. It's just, I think, even more so. And it's with content that's more traditionally on other platforms, right? Because they're would you say a legit show or a movie?
This is a movie. So they have an hour and a half.
Is it just one movie?
It's just one movie.
They haven't released on YouTube yet.
No, they haven't released it on YouTube yet.
They got their audience from YouTube.
They got their audience from a combination of other platforms, which is interesting. They don't really have a huge following on YouTube yet, so it makes me wonder how they're going to do.
Anyways, the second thought is this has nothing to do with platforms. It has to do with an opportunity for in-person events. Gary Vaynerchuk says more in-person events need to happen in 2026 because creators and just people want them to happen. In fact, I know one of the biggest event promoters in Seattle that's just crushing it. John Cortese, I'll just say his name. Yeah. He started doing his own events a few months ago after he, ironically, funny enough, came to one of my events. Not nearly as big as his, but I had a creator event, which, by the way, if you're a creator, so one of the reasons you should connect with me on Instagram, follow me, BenjiManTV, DM me, because I would love to invite you to these. These are exclusive for creators, so we don't just invite the wider public, but we talked. He was already doing event promotion for other people, right? Whether it's a club or a restaurant. I said, why aren't you doing your own? He's like, I'm going to do it. I was like, no, you need to do it right away. Long story short, he's done multiple sold out every single one, or if not really close to it. And the reason I bring it up is people are yearning to connect in person, especially after that whole, COVID thing that we all went through. And especially because we live in this digital age. So what this story that you're telling me tells me is, what is one of the number one businesses that's hurting because of what we're talking about?
The theater business.
Movie theaters.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about an opportunity to get a audience who is already content centric, that wants to watch content, right? And connect with a creator. Man, I personally, or I'm thinking about it right now, I want to run more events in movie theaters because they need the foot traffic. Because what happens when you go to a movie theater? You buy drinks, you buy popcorn, you do that. They literally need that. I know this because they're doing things they never would have done before. There's not as many people going to movie theaters. So they're showing old movies, like nostalgic, like 90s throwbacks and whatever. They're doing, like Taylor Swift has her new tour release, and they'll do Taylor Swift tour viewing show, parties, and so I think for creators it's an opportunity to take advantage of that. In this case, maybe even get a deal. So yeah, it's as other things are dying, there's opportunities in those places, and I think included for creators. I would say this. It's interesting that I always tell you, like, it's always a head scratcher that we always keep talking about this and they stay relevant, and they haven't even uploaded their movie to YouTube yet.
And that's actually what I wanted to ask you. That's why I bring it up in this scenario, because A, they are having some success, right, on these other platforms. But B, tell me how you think that they'll do in terms of that upload to YouTube. I know you haven't seen the video and things like that, but something that's an hour and a half long, right? Maybe hour and 45, I don't remember exactly, but a narrative film, right, released on YouTube. Do you think it has the opportunity to fill that nighttime slot that we talked about? How many
followers do they have across their platforms? Like, if you had to put a broad range on it.
I'm going to look it up. Right now on their YouTube channel, they have 12,000 subscribers.
Yeah, and then the question is, how many of those 12,000 have watched the film in person? Because if you've watched it in person, would you be incentivized to watch it on YouTube? Probably not. But really the question is, you subtract that from that number, and that's like the potential for views. Okay. So I don't know. I think it's still like, I'm like 50-50. It could be great. It all depends on the movie. I'll tell you what, for sure, this is a fact. It has a better chance of doing well, set aside even their tour and the buzz and the Regal Cinemas like signing, to do well now than it did 10 years ago. Because people just weren't watching longer videos back then. 5 years ago, I think, was the threshold that we went over. And I want to dissect that more later. But man, I talked to that creator today that said 5-hour live streams, not videos, live streams. But to the viewer, it doesn't matter. I don't think it does matter. I think that content's content, and it's scratching that itch. It's like covering the thing you're obsessed about, you're interested in. That's what they care about. And do they like you, right? Are you likable to them? And if you show up regularly, that's why live streamers at the highest levels that are very consistent are winning, even if it's perceived that they're doing very normal stuff, just because it's there and there's not a lot of competition. This goes back to 2008. You could just be on your webcam and become a YouTuber. You couldn't over a certain amount of time, because guess what happened? It got competitive, more production, more competition, more, like legit like content. So we're in this weird window where the amateur hour, the newbie, the I don't have a lot of stuff, I'm just using my phone era, it is still going to be significant. I actually believe one day in like 3 years, maybe, I'm just pulling that on my ass, it won't be like this. It will be back to
competitive again,
higher production, whatever, because when the money sees that there's opportunity here, they just all fall in. And that's both the creators that are one-man bands, as well as, proper studios or even like traditional, Hollywood.
Yeah, real-time follow-up. They have about 200,000 subscribers on their Instagram. And I mean, again, you say that there's no difference, but I think we just learned, like, in terms of the viewing time, right? The at least the sort of premium nature of the content does sort of dictate the type of viewing that happens, right? Like we saw with Netflix versus YouTube, right? Like you're more likely to watch a premium piece of content in the evening, according to this data, than like a YouTube video necessarily. YouTube is still winning, by the way, but like you're much more likely than earlier in the day. So I think that there is a bit of a distinction. But I want to move on to another person who's kind of innovating in the creator space, right? This is more traditional, and it's MKBHD. I've been watching MKBHD since I was a high schooler. I've been following him for a very long time. I'm very into tech and things like that. He is inarguably the kind of #1 tech reviewer in the world. He's kind of taking the place of like a Walt Mossberg, if you're from the old era of like newspapers, basically, and things like that. But he is the #1 tech channel, like undoubtedly. And he did something really interesting, which is, I think, applicable across a lot of different YouTube channels, which is he made a video admitting every single way that he was wrong in 2025, which I thought was really fascinating. So he went through and basically created this video that's titled "Every Mistake I Made in 2025." And he went through video by video and listed every single mistake that he and his team made in producing those videos, which I thought was really interesting. So my first question for you is what your reaction is to that? Because to me, I think it's a kind of unique thing. There's actually one other creator who's done it before that I know of, but I'm curious about your thoughts about something like that from a creator like MKBHD.
Just to be honest, transparent, and be humble and say, hey, I made these mistakes, and like I'm just kind of correcting my statements or what I did.
Yeah, basically.
Great.
Yeah.
I think a viewer appreciates that because it makes you just more human and more relatable. In a way, it's like what makes it unusual is like at his level that he's willing to do that, because some people would think that would kind of mess with the authority.
And actually, the interesting thing is that I'll tell you, his inspiration is from Tom Scott, who's another big YouTuber, kind of educational side of things. I don't know if you've ever seen Tom Scott's videos before. He retired a couple of years ago, which will come back later on. But he made a video at the end of his run, basically, on his channel after, I think, over a decade, basically saying every single mistake he made on every single one of his videos ever.
Mistake as in statements of fact, an opinion, and so not necessarily like production mistakes. Or
yeah,
whatever.
I think they actually do bring up some like slight production mistakes, but focus on the factual things like that. And one of the reasons that MKBHD says that he does this is because he thinks it actually adds authority to his business, because he goes back and says, guess what? We're so thorough that we go back and we check all of our mistakes. And by the way, make sure that they're visible to you. We care that much about the quality of our videos that we're willing to admit this to you. Now, the video is not performing the best of everything, but it did perform pretty well. It's already
MKBHDs?
Yeah, it was only posted a week ago, got 1 million views, 1.1 million views. And so it's just interesting to me that, like, yeah, he's turned his mistakes into content that's probably also making his team money as well. He also brought up something interesting, which is that he wants annotations again. You'll remember annotations, right? And the corrections that those annotations would have allowed. And it turns out that there is actually a corrections feature now on YouTube that they just released. So again, some more news you can use. If you have a correction you want to make in a video, you can go to YouTube Studio, click on your content, choose the video you want to add, and go to the description field. And it's kind of like adding a timestamp, right? So what you do is you start a new line in the description and you type the word correction, or corrections, and then you type in the timestamp for all of the corrections that you want to appear underneath that. So you could do 1:00. This happened in 2011, not 2010, and that'll show up as a correction on top of the YouTube video. If you have multiple corrections, you can add new lines, timestamps, etc., just like you do with chapters, and they'll all show up throughout the video. So again, some more news you can use, including MKBHD, if you didn't get that one yet. I'm sure 100 people sent that to him just alone. But thought it was kind of interesting that MKBHD made this new kind of content that I hadn't seen before, just a different type of strategy, but also that it was a throwback to the old days of annotations on YouTube videos, which were kind of its own thing.
Yeah, I think it's cool that YouTube has all these like cool little, and they're not gimmicky. They're actually very useful for creators. And, will it be something people use a lot? Because it's a lot of work to go back and fix your correction. Not everybody wants to be like that. But kudos to him to do that, because in this day and age, still, the one thing that makes YouTube amazing is that you're connecting with real people that you can relate to.
Yeah.
So it just makes him more relatable. And I've met him one time at a YouTube event, just briefly. And I remember just thinking like, this guy just seems like a really cool, chill person. And I bet you if we just hung out, it would be like hanging out with another, not like an alien, you know, he's not like so deep in Hollywood where you don't know what it's like to interact with regular people.
Yeah.
So this kind of stuff.
He's a YouTuber.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of the thing that some people don't like about YouTube, but I think I love about YouTube. And so being humble and having humility always will go a long ways. You know what? It makes you more trusted.
Oh, totally.
Because
100%.
if you're willing to like say what your mistake is, you're more so willing to maybe like be more discerning on what you say in the future, knowing like, hey, yeah, I got that wrong. Hey, let me check this out, because you don't want to always be wrong.
Yeah.
Right. That video can't just get like more and more popular. That doesn't happen. But yeah, but it's not getting views because it's not about tech.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Is tech in a weird season, but there's not a lot going on?
I would say that, yeah. I mean, people have felt that way for a long time. The big counter narrative that is AI. Like AI is the thing that gets the most interest. Basically.
And there's not a lot going on with AI right now.
I mean, I would say not as much as early on, which
probably
is
not
crazy.
product related either,
But
right?
there's still drama, like the whole Google.
My thought is this is more from a creator. Why would he do it? He needs content to fill the gap.
That's very
I
true.
bet you he probably has a sponsorship on that video.
That's a good question. I'll have to rewatch it. Yeah.
I bet you he does.
At the very least, he has AdSense on. I know that for sure because it played ads.
Yeah, and when you got a business and overhead, you got to pay the bills.
That's exactly right. And also, I think that it's just like you said, it's a quality thing. It's good news for everybody and adds to his brand, so to speak. In other YouTuber news, last week we talked about Prometheus kind of retiring, and he mentioned that he was burned out, that he really wasn't having any fun, and that your big advice was kind of, hey, listen, if you're a creator getting close to burnout, you should really think about having more fun, honestly. Like if you're doing something that is not fun to you, it's not going to last. And I want to say we got some really interesting feedback on that segment from the first one was at the Jazzy Nation 1 on YouTube, who says, yes, the lack of fun is the result of my pivot, and the performance on my videos don't even matter anymore because I'm having a ton of fun. There was another person who commented, they were at Fix It On The Way, who says, no fun equals no fire equals burnout. This is a great topic. I like the take about fun. It's a good metaphor to avoid burnout with life in general. I've always thought it was such a great way to approach YouTube. Let me say that again. I've always thought a great way to approach YouTube is from the end. Start by imagining that you're burned out. Now, how do you fix the burnout so that you can continue making videos on YouTube? Once you figure that out, this is where you start your channel. And then theoretically, you should never burn out. Keep in mind that this won't guarantee that you'll get views and make money. It just means that you will protect and feed your own creativity. In theory, your creativity will lead you forward and a path to profit will appear. I thought both were very wise, very interesting. The fact that we have people in the comment section already talking about the fact that they're pivoting or really want to make sure that they're having fun. But there is something else that happened too. First, any thoughts about the comments there?
I mean, I said it because I see it in creators who are burning out, that part of it is they lost something that made them start the YouTube channel in the first place. And so the further they get away from that origin, right, the less likely it's something that they really want. And the closer they get back to that original kind of like motivation, the easier it is for them to be fueled. And some people just don't know. And so they get burnt out and then they reassess. And so many times when I have those private conversations with creators, they always say, yeah, when I look back at it, I just was overwhelmed with stuff I don't want or I don't like. And so, so when people can relate to it, it's just, you know, part of YouTube's success has nothing to do with YouTube. It's just the individual and 100%. What they're going through, what they want, what they're good at, what they're not good at, and realizing that. I think this is where Gary Vaynerchuk is so wise. He says half the battle is self-awareness.
Yeah,
and being aware that in the creative venture, fun is a necessary component of this effort because it is not easy and you'll be tested, challenged. So if it's like crappy and you're not having fun, it's like, why even do it? If you're going through crap, but you're having fun still, it's a little bit more palatable. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, another person who I have watched for a long time and who posted a video this week about potentially burning out and maybe even retiring is Veritasium. I've been watching Veritasium, who's another educational YouTube channel for, I want to say over a decade, actually, almost as long as they've been around on YouTube. It's kind of in the vein of Vsauce, if you've ever watched Vsauce's videos, or Mark Rober, if you've ever watched his videos. And he posted a video titled "The Future of Veritasium" that I sent you, Benji, not too long ago, and you gave it a look. But he starts talking about his journey on YouTube, beginning in 2011, where he starts the channel and is making $840 across an entire year of AdSense on his videos. And then by 2013, his ability to kind of go full time, right? So after a couple of years, finally has the ability to go full time. Eventually has his first kid, gets engaged, doesn't get married because he's so busy making content for his YouTube channel, and eventually starts kind of building out a team a little bit, and kind of starts to delegate a little bit more, but finds himself actually also managing on top of that. So he's actually even busier than he was before. So by 2018, he had a YouTube contact that told him to stay relevant, which he found kind of, it was hard to hear for him.
Offensive?
Yeah, offensive, basically. But by 2021, he had finally had his small team, is working even more, is coordinating, is training, has these all-nighters. And then in 2022, had a company come in called Electrify, who basically approached him and proposed that they invest in Veritasium, that they buy a chunk of the company, that they get ownership over the company, but that they manage a lot of the business details related to it. So by 2023, he signed the deal. And after the deal, they've continued to produce videos, but with less and less of him in the actual videos themselves, kind of delegating more and more to the bigger team that they've actually, purchased with some of that investment money. And so right now, he basically posts this video and says, hey, my workload is down. Me and my wife finally got married. And guess what? You're probably going to see less and less of me on the channel. Maybe there will come a point where you won't see me at all necessarily. And so I must have missed a couple of things. I know that you have a lot of takes about the idea of burnout. To me, it doesn't sound like he ever stopped necessarily having fun. It was the thing that he was passionate about from day one, but the workload started to overwhelm him, and maybe that's what kind of has driven him away. Driven him away. I'm curious about what your perspective is.
I just watched that video, and it's interesting. It's very clickbaity, right? Yeah. Because he didn't actually fully quit. He just stepped back and did what a lot of smart creators do, which is scale up, have a team, relieve them of certain duties. He probably focuses on where he's most valuable. It's just like business 101. That's how you grow without adding more to your plate and letting your business consume time. And in the beginning, he didn't do that. Right, for whatever reason. I believe though that would you call it an acquisition of sorts, right, or a partnership?
It's at least an investment.
Yeah, an investment happened because of those eras where he was unbalanced, where he was putting off personal stuff and he was all in. That's how he got there. I have not watched his videos in a long time, but I look back, it's like 1 million views, 2 million views, 3 million views. It's a powerful channel, and it's got a lot of love from his subscribers. And even this video probably won't perform as well because, again, it has nothing to do with science. It's just him as a creator. So his core viewers watch it, but I don't think it's something that will go on. At least, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. So my thought was he just went through the same evolution that so many other creators go through, which is they love something and they know that YouTube is a way to be able to share that love or that hobby, in this case science, and then get paid for it. But then, as you say, you almost ultimately fall back onto entrepreneurship, or as you're trying to compete against other channels, you're having to do more. There's a lot of things that he talked about that I think were really smart in the beginning, though. He kept his expenses very low. He was talking about how he didn't, order anything for production that he didn't absolutely need. He kept it lean and mean, so he wasn't like creating this team. And even when he was hiring a team, he was letting people find him and then hiring. I think that's like a great way to do it. Of course, it's not like everybody that wants a job from you is going to be great, but it's like you're not asking for them to work for you. They're like begging you to let them work for you. There's just a little bit different kind of a dynamic there. But ultimately, he's a lucky one. Some people, they don't prioritize their family, and they ultimately ruin their family because they didn't think about that work-life balance, which I think is important. At the end of the day, the reason he's successful is because he went all out 100%, all in the very beginning. And now he has the option to have these investors kind of help him to scale. He talked about like 30 team members, and he's doing more content than ever. He said the last 2 years, he's getting more views, or like certain videos are getting more views than anything he's watched. But for me, set aside the burnout part and like potentially, like it was messing with his life, and then he kind of figured it out and he's stepping back, really was why is he doing so well right now in the last 2 years? That to me was the biggest takeaway of the video. That's not what he was trying to say, but I was like, why is it? So what I did was, the reason I went to his channel to look at his videos wasn't to see how many views he was getting just in general.
Yeah.
I wanted to know about why he was getting those views.
Like what happened, basically.
What happened in the last year. So when I go top viewed videos, right, showing some videos that are 10 years old, he had his number one viewed video is the one where he's in front of like a big lake, like a reservoir with these big black, like balloons covering the whole lake.
Yeah.
And that got 53 million views. But that was 7 years ago. All the ones that are in his top 20, 30 recently that got lots of views, that were uploaded within the last 1 or 2 years, guess how long his videos were?
30 minutes?
At least.
Interesting, huh?
30 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe even like 50 minutes. There's a reason he's doing better than ever in the last 2 years. And it's not just the team, and it's not just the content. It's just the pure length. What did we just get done talking about? TV and how YouTube's disrupting that whole world, how viewers want longer videos. So, just by default, going longer helps. And of course, his team helps him do that, because by himself, that video that did 53 million views, only 12 minutes long.
Wow.
I wonder if that video was even longer, if it would do even better. It doesn't matter. It's a 7-year-old video, so good for him. It got 53 million views. But one of his videos just recently that got, I think when I looked at it, it was getting like 4 to 8 million views. 40 minutes long. So how many ads are playing on that thing? And so it's not about adding fluff. It's about adding all the things that he didn't have time to do back in the day, or he didn't think he could do, because the standard was it had to be under 15 minutes. And now it's like, boom. And to me, I was like listening to him to talk when he was saying that. I was like, ooh, he knows this thing, but this video is not for him to reveal that.
Yeah.
But it was like a clue that I understand like what that represents. And so what I'm telling you right now, like the biggest takeaway was, the reason his channel is doing so well is not just all the things he talked about and him stepping back and letting these professionals, help him out and support him, and this investor paying for those expenses. It's also that just his videos are longer around something that people get super obsessed about, including science, and they're willing to watch 40 minutes. And that's why not only do they get better view times, like average view duration, I bet you there's just more views because there's an audience that's there to consume it, versus before they weren't. They maybe weren't, or they wanted like quick videos. So, that's what they. Does he do short form content?
I don't think he does. I haven't seen his short form content. I don't watch much short form content.
And there was another big takeaway if you want to talk about it. But any thoughts when I say that?
No. Well, the big one is the watch time thing, which I found fascinating. That he brought up the fact that his number one metric there, first of all, is watch time, something we've talked about forever on this show, right? But also that his watch time is up a ton, right? And I agree with you that basically most likely is because they're making longer videos. Now, part of that I would say is enabled by the other things. Like that's kind of more of a bottom line thing than a top line thing to some degree. But you still have to make a decision at the top line to say, hey, we're going to aim for a video that is closer to that 30-minute mark, right? And things like that. But also just up that his subscribers were up as well during that period, right? The fact that he is still growing that channel. I guess I should maybe say the team is still growing that channel at this point, right? Even without him going away.
Oh, he's still growing it. It's his face. That's like, he's still in a lot of the videos, Like, I don't think you can ever take that credit away, because there is something about the authority of the channel, especially when it comes to science, that the algorithm probably like, yeah, this is a legit channel. When they put out stuff, you almost needed that runway to get to that point.
I totally agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
guess the last thing I would say too there is just that it's interesting to me that we've talked about in the past that other channels have struggled with this type of transition where the founder, I would call them the founder, basically starts to go away and they can't continue the process. Now, the reason he's posting this video now is they've already been doing it for a couple of years and they've already had some success. And so he's basically saying, this is going to continue. You've probably noticed this thing. And actually, that there's this other thing I want to bring up, which has to do with the investment. But maybe I should let you go first, or should we talk about the investment first?
Yeah, there was a few other things that he mentioned, but yeah, one of them being it was precarious.
Yes, that was what I was going to bring up
That
too.
was like crazy. Yeah. Though he said being a YouTube creator is precarious because you don't know how much you're going to make. Not every one of your videos can be a predictable amount of views.
And therefore a predictable amount of money.
And a predictable amount of money. And even with brand deals, guess what? Even though brand deals have different variables to why they're valued, views is part of it. So like your views go down significantly, or maybe there's a competitor channel that's getting a lot more views, you might lose those opportunities. So that was kind of interesting that he put this word on it.
Yeah.
That it's precarious.
Precarious.
And now he's saying, and I want you to explain it. Now with this investor, it's not as precarious because there's some consistency or whatever. But yeah, tell me about the investor.
Well, the thing that we have talked about that you brought up earlier is that creators, and this is very clear that he is one of them, fall backwards into entrepreneurship. It's not something that they necessarily want to do. Some creators do. Some creators are entrepreneurs first, and then they become creators because they recognize the power of being a creator. I think most creators who are like pure creators start as someone who wants to post videos on YouTube and then fall backwards once they go full time and thinking, oh, I am now an entrepreneur. I have to run a business. He didn't want to be a manager. He didn't want to do the taxes. He didn't want to do all of that stuff. And he didn't want to build out a team. And necessarily, he was almost like forced into building out his team, right? And so this investor comes in and they're like, we're going to manage all of that entrepreneur stuff so you can do the creator stuff. And actually, even then, he took a step back from that as well, right? Just because he had burned himself out over the past 10 plus years of doing the creator thing. And so the investor comes in, and the interesting thing that I realized in the middle of watching this video is that you and I had talked about this before. There's another channel called Micro. I believe it's Micro, and then, it's just called Micro. And way back, about half a year ago, they posted a video that says, your favorite YouTube channel is probably owned by private equity. And at the time, that really perked my ears up. I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. Like, private equity is coming to the space. They're going to start investing in all of these channels. They talked about, I think, they definitely talked about Veritasium in there, which I found interesting. But I think they talked about like Colin and Samir and maybe Mark Rober. I can't remember if that one was true or not. But they had a whole bunch basically. And so here's what they said at the time. This is what I was reading earlier, by the way. Hyper optimization is only going to accelerate the trend of every single piece of content on YouTube moving toward the same generic but effective formula. This is amplified by another problem that comes when the channel turns into an asset. They typically want to move away from the focus on a single creator. Sound familiar? For more than a decade, a channel like Veritasium has been focused on the host, Dr. Derek Muller. And for a lot of regular viewers, Dr. Muller is Veritasium. But if you've been watching the channel recently, you'll notice new hosts are slowly being introduced, so the whole operation isn't as singularly focused on one personality. The business case is that this cuts down on the key man risk, as it's called, where the entire operation depends on one single person to continue. Since Veritasium isn't actually Derek's business anymore, there's nothing to stop him from restarting a new channel or from scratch or just retiring, since he presumably made a lot of money from the acquisition in the first place. For other channels, this has already happened. If you search,
I want to know how much he made.
Yeah, and actually, I think that this is an assumption that they're making that may or may not be true, especially with a team, right? If it's a lot of money to run a team. I think they said of like 30 plus, so that's a lot. But he says for other channels, this already happened. If you search quote "why I left" plus a channel name on YouTube, you'll find endless videos of former personalities behind big channels explaining why they're suddenly showing up on a completely new channel. A common theme is that there wasn't their channel anymore. Most of these splits seem pretty amicable, often with the old channel commenting support under their video, but it's still a real problem behind the scenes. After losing their hosts, a lot of these channels have suffered from reduced viewership, and people are far less likely to support channels through merch or other paid memberships when they know it's just a faceless investment firm on the other side of the transaction. So first of all, shout out to Micro for kind of calling out the general sketch of this 6 months early, which is kind of amazing. They recognize this coming down the pike, and it's showing that this really truly is happening. But I will say that there are a couple things that maybe that they got wrong, or at least that Veritasium would dispute based off of what they're saying in this video. In some ways, it may even be a response to this video, right? Where they seems more than amicable. It seems like they have actually, this group in particular has done a very good job of taking over Veritasium and figuring out how to carry on the spirit without having to have Derek Muller at the center of it. But also that this investment firm in particular is kind of interesting because they are focused on a group of educational creators that they're trying to invest in to kind of do the same thing over and over again here. And so to me, this shows that there's a future, right? Where instead of having one creator who has a more precarious business because, you know, it's a one-man band, as this video points out, spreading that risk across a bunch of different creators, right, and pooling it inside of an investment firm is one way to do that. The reason I know about this is because in tech, that's what people do. That's what startups are designed to do. They're supposed to be very high risk, high reward bets that these really rich people go and invest in, so that way they can spread the risk out across a bunch of different companies. And so I think that this more and more is going to be some of the future of YouTube, especially if we're going for a more premium style of content. And so for me, the investment is kind of a double-edged sword. I hear what Micro is saying. I hear what Veritasium is saying. But I think that it's just kind of a new source of money in the YouTube ecosystem that hadn't really ever existed before. So I don't know if that gets at kind of what you were going for, but
yeah, it's inevitable that it's going to go that way.
Yeah.
Because to compete, you have to do more.
Yeah.
You have to do better. You have to do bigger. And so when you think about that, the reason he was burning out, because in the very beginning, I think it was a much more sustainable amount of hours he was going for.
Yeah.
And the reason he didn't want to hire is because he doesn't like hiring. The reason he doesn't want to be an entrepreneur is he doesn't like the business stuff. Out of necessity, he needed these people.
Yeah.
Now, to his credit, maybe like that's what he needed to do. And he realized that and he made a big payday. That's why I'm curious how much he made.
Yeah.
But good for him. Now the channel's even bigger. It's probably, he has more time. He talked about at the very end of the video, he's traveling more. He got married in this place and he's just spending more time with his kids. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
And that's the rest of YouTube.
Yeah.
So you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Set aside investor money or big acquisitions. You don't know what a creator has going on to create those videos. But guess what? You know for a fact what I got going on. I got me and my editor, and sometimes not even my editor, right? I try to keep things very lean. This is why vlogging is really powerful, not just for the beginner or people that want to be vloggers, but I think all content creators that especially don't want to fall into that, like, I have to scale. I have to have a huge team. I have to become a production eventually. The payday goal is great, right? But what do you have to sacrifice to do that?
Yes.
So he's just an example of somebody that I think if you were to have an honest conversation with him, whether you're talking to his old self at the beginning or the one that's 5 years ago that was like getting close to burnout, or right now, he in his heart would have still wanted to keep it lean and mean, that he wouldn't want investors if he was able to do it. But the thing is this, his channel was starting to compete against everybody else, not just science niche, everybody else, and he needed this many views to pay for all this kind of stuff. Because, you know, this is the question. It's like he still made the choice to work that much.
Yeah.
Why did he work that much when he was saying, oh, you know, I could have been with my kids downstairs or whatever? He made that choice, whether it was forced because he needed to, you know, financially make up for the expense or whatever, or he needed to do this production to compete for the views. Yeah. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is it's some of the growing pains of it, and you can benefit if you have the acquisition. This is why my wife is interesting, how she just kept it so lean because she doesn't care about any of that stuff, right? And she wouldn't ever want to entertain a buyout or whatever because she knows like what, because the downside of all that other stuff, it won't be like his voice. It's other people's voices. And I've seen other channels. I was looking up another channel where the main person who was hired as a talent for a military channel left, right? Because they couldn't come to an agreement, and that main military channel went down. We're talking like initially it was like 10% of the views when he left.
Wow.
I think they got back up, but never to the big, home runs or the grand slams. He started his own channel with almost the exact same type of content. Even some of his team members left the original channel and followed him to this new channel, and that's doing 10x the views that old channel is. So why I bring that up too is like, I wonder, I don't know the guy, I just like follow his content. I wonder if it's more work for him or less work for him, because that's a good example of going the opposite direction where he's like downscaling, not necessarily on his production, but downscaling from all the support that he had. He didn't have to think about the bills. He didn't have to think about payroll. And now he does have to do it. There's different ways of doing it. There's no one way of doing it. Be self-aware. My big takeaway after hearing everything that you just said about the guy, the Veritasium doctor guy or whatever, is it took him a while to get to this point where he was aware enough that like he needed this, and he had the opportunity because someone got to him and offered this and he could do it. And now he's probably just happier, generally speaking. And that's why more views, more money doesn't always equate to more happiness.
Yeah.
You might be more successful as a channel, and you're getting more views, you're getting more subscribers, but and that's where like inevitably if you get burnt out, then everything just stops, especially if your face is reliant on the success of the channel versus if you've got more bandwidth. The other thing I was going to say, can I say my other takeaway?
Yeah.
For creators, he just briefly mentioned it. He said, and he said it so casually, with short form coming into the scene and AI being a consideration, things were getting harder. Now he does long form content, so it's interesting he still brings up shorts. You think like those are two different things, but on YouTube, especially in the very beginning, it wasn't. It still was on the same feed that people get to choose. So you could say like a whole nother world of creators came in and competing against your views. Secondly, when he talks about AI, well, I think AI has many different layers to it, but just on the short form, guess what? That's that many more short form coming onto the scene, whether you're using AI to help you create content or AI is the content. That's just more. And that also competes against long form.
Seriously.
And so when he brought that up, I think that was part of like his instinct or his feeling that he was getting, that man, there's like more content I have to compete against. There's more creators on YouTube now that I'm competing against, and AI is going to make it even worse. So exponential. So me, but guess what? I'm even more sensitive to it because I don't want a huge team. I don't want this huge, big business. Right? I like making more money. I like being profitable. I like providing for my family, but I don't want that, partly because my wife doesn't want that, right? It's just too much for us. I'm on the opposite side of this guy. I get to spend a lot of time with my kids. I literally like make things that like I cook for my family, and that's part of my content. And our lifestyle around being a family is our content. So that's a huge benefit for us to being family vloggers. But when I hear what he was saying, that was kind of like scaring him, but part of the equation of like why he needed to do something different, I'm even more sensitive to it. This is why I started doing the new way of vlogging.
Very true.
This is why I really believe after I discovered TV was so significant, not just because YouTube was saying it, but because other people were saying, I'm watching 5-hour videos, and then also live streaming. I'm like, hey, I'm going this direction. But how do you do all that with less work? Not the same amount, or definitely not more work, because it has to be sustainable. And that's why I think the new vlog method is going to be so helpful, and it's going to work for a lot of people that don't want to go that direction. Because you know what's funny though? He could totally start a vlogging channel, do literally 1% of the work. It might not get 1 million views or 3 million views, but if it got 100,000 views, but it was only 60 minutes of his time, his
and
only him. And he like literally said, hey, I'm going to put up video where I don't have to edit at all. He probably can't even fathom that, but I bet you I could coach him, or he could learn how to do this. That could still be a successful channel that could probably be lucrative and get sponsors. And and that's vlogging.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the interesting things is that it depends on what his goals are, right? What he actually wants to be doing, right? Now, for a lot of people who are just getting started, finding that pathway is the most important thing. What is the actual thing that you are capable of on your own that you can fit into your schedule? That's the beauty of vlogging that you're talking about. if you want to join us for the Vlogging Academy Challenge starting on January 5th. You can learn more at vloggingacademy.com/challenge. I want to dig into something in the film room here, right, which is the segment of the show where we talk about the director's commentary, basically, of our channels, which is exactly related to what you were talking about with the length of the videos. This is going to be the big theme. Now, we are, 2 years in now to your new vlogging method, which is kind of amazing to think. So we have a quite long history to look back on, let alone the fact that you had a channel for several years, even before that. I think your YouTube channel is like 7 years old now at this point. Your BenjiManTV channel, maybe more. On there, one of the things that I decided to look at, looking back on 2025, is the entire history of one statistic. Now, neutrally, would you mind bringing up our graphic here? And Benji, you have to tell me what you think that this graphic is. It should be kind of obvious based off of what the axes say, but what are we seeing here, Benji? What do you notice?
I noticed that whatever this graphic is, it goes up, and it significantly is going up since the end of 2023.
Basically, when you started the new vlogging method. Well,
yes.
It kind of starts, maybe down in the 2 to 3 minute range, because as you can see there on the right, there's some, it's 0, 5, 10, 15.
Oh, yeah.
And then it creeps its way up to, I'm going to say in the 2023 year, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And then in 2025, this year, it creeps all the way up even higher than that into like the 10 to 15 minute range. You have any guess about what this is? It is from your channel.
Audience view duration.
It is the average view duration on BenjiManTV. Yeah. So this is a really interesting thing. I would say that you started in 2023 hitting things really hard. You went basically for lots of views, lots of volume, what we call the phase 1 of the new vlogging method, or just of any YouTube channel, right? Creeping its way up and up and up. That was when you got that 5 to 10 minute AVD, which was kind of amazing because you were already at the very beginning, even if you weren't getting as many views, people were watching you for a longer period of time. This year, tell me if I'm wrong on this, Benji, but you, I would say, have uploaded fewer videos, probably more bangers. You've gotten higher views per video, but maybe less views overall in the entire year, I would say, just because it hasn't been your number one focus this year, right? But your watch time has actually increased on those videos overall. Tell me more about that and why that's so important for you and your YouTube channel.
So I already vlog on my family channel. So even though I was going daily for a while, I knew that it wasn't going to be forever. And this was the plan all along to like kind of taper it down, because part of the reason I was doing the new vlog method on my food channel was to literally teach everybody that listen to this podcast, creators I'm connected to, and obviously ones that purchased the course. So I already knew this was going, but there's something else that I discovered in this journey, which is the significance of longer vlogs and especially vlogs formatted for TV. So I was thinking, okay, what type of behaviors are there? This goes all the way back actually to when I started writing YouTube secrets and when I was first starting to teach people how to think about YouTube. My first piece of advice, I have a video. I wish I could find this. It might be on my channel that I sent to my best friend at the time. We're still best friends. But he was like, Benji, teach me about YouTube. This is in 2010. I recorded a YouTube video in my office, in my condo at the time. And one of the first things I say is like, put yourself in the shoes, in the seat of the person at the computer.
Very true.
And what is their behavior? What are they typing in? What are they looking at? How are they watching the video? If you can get into the mind of that person, which is your viewer, you're already going to be so much farther ahead of other creators. Well, remember, that was in a computer chair. That's at a
keyboard and mouse.
Keyboard and mouse. That's on like a office table or whatever, a desk. And then that moved to obviously eventually the phone. So I started thinking, okay, if people are watching on the TV, they're literally sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
They're in their living room. Totally different behavior. What do we know about people that turn on the TV and watch cable television or their favorite broadcast show? They're watching longer content. What exactly are they doing? Watching TV shows or movies? They're 30 minutes or 60 minutes. So this year, one of the goals was, and you can see on almost all my content, I'm trying to do at least, if not around, 30-minute vlogs. So, and I had this theory that even if I just put out a super long vlog, just because of the length of the vlog is longer, maybe because my audience will just watch whatever because they enjoy it, that they'll just watch longer and longer. And it's been the case. But there is a cap to it. I did my first hour and 15-minute video. So my vlogs have averaged 50% average view duration. That's crazy.
That is
because
crazy.
if you think about a 30-minute video, you get 15 minutes. That's why you see that number at that point. So then the logic was, oh, if you do 45 minutes, it would be about 22 minutes. And it was the case, but it slowly kind of tapered down to the point where I did an hour long, 1 hour and 15-minute vlog, and the average view duration was like 25 minutes. So it wasn't close to the 50%. So I pulled it back. I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to try to touch that because for me and my style of vlogs and my audience and the content I want to create, that's max for me. Okay. So this is why you're seeing that 15 minutes. That's not by accident. That was like purposeful because what did I find out? TV's a significant part of the strategy. The behavior of watching content on the TV is more attuned to 30 minutes or 60 minutes because of shows and movies that they were watching on television back in the day. And that's still the behavior now. And so even more relaxed, even more so executing on my new vlog method. And that's why you see that metric the way it is.
So how long would you say in 2024 was the average BenjiManTV video vlog?
Oh, it was like 12, 18 minutes.
I mean, I just scrolled back to the beginning. It was like you were posting in the 9 to 10 minute range at the beginning.
At the very beginning,
starting to kind of creep up over time after that. This year, is it the average like 20 to 30 minutes, maybe 30 minutes flat?
Definitely. Definitely. I will say I surprised myself because I had a video that I uploaded that was only, I think, 12 minutes or 16 minutes. You can look at it neutrally if you want. Actually, I have it right here.
Yeah, actually, that is the next topic, which is that you have really evangelized the 30-minute slot, but you just uploaded a video to BenjiManTV about half a month to a month ago. It was 12 minutes long.
Yeah.
And last I checked, it was at 85,000 views, which is a very well-performing
By the
video.
way, it stopped at 85,000.
So tell me about what that means for your theory about the length of the video, which still is 85,000 is good for your channel, right? So it's not like it flopped.
So there's a cooking katsu curry for the family video. It's 13 minutes long. I don't think I meant it really to be that short, but it ended up being content for my family vlog channel. So what I vlog, if it doesn't hit that certain threshold, I usually just put it on my family vlog channel. But in this case, for some reason, I'm like, hey, Chris, my editor, is like, just go ahead and edit this and we're going to upload it because I think it's still a good video. But I didn't think it was going to perform that well. Did 85,000 views. So there's still, that's the thing. This is also true. There's still an opportunity for shorter videos to have value in this world of extremes, right? Short form content, that's shorts. For longer videos, we're talking at least 15 minutes long, if not longer. But the middle is still there. Like there's a demand for it. But what's weird about this video is it kept going up and up and up. And I was like, crazy. I can't believe this is getting this many views, especially when my audience expects longer videos. Because what happened? It stopped at 85,000 views.
That is fascinating.
It's like dead in the water. It just went views. Boom.
Nothing.
Just nothing. And it just stopped. And this happens sometimes. And me and my editor kind of going back and forth what it is. So I think it's the algorithm saying, hey, this is a winning video for his audience or for people that are interested in this topic, being katsu curry. We're going to test it out until it didn't work. And they're like, he had his time. You're back in the minor leagues, as we say.
Well, I do want to bring up one other thing, which is the total watch time on the video, right? If you think about what YouTube's trying to do,
duration, you mean, right?
Not even average view duration. Yeah. Well, first of all, let's start with average view duration, actually. So first of all, if you think about what YouTube's trying to do, they're trying to get you to watch videos, which is great. This video definitely is doing it. It's performing very well in the context of the videos that surround it. But is it keeping them watching for a specific amount of time? Because YouTube wants you to watch for long periods of time as well. Well, your average view duration, you just told us you make 30-minute videos and 50%. So that's 15-minute average view duration, just some simple math there. This one, the average view duration, if you're okay with me sharing it.
Well, it's a 13-minute video, by the way, lengthwise. And what is the average view duration?
246. So way, way lower. So if you look at that and then you look at the total watch time, it's also way lower than usual, less than half of what your usual watch time is at this point in the video's lifetime. So that could be another reason why it stopped showing it, because it's not fulfilling that metric that YouTube tends to
but
carry.
What's the question is, why did it get 85,000 views? Who are those people?
Well, maybe it was, like, what do you mean by that? Like,
I'm just saying, like, why did that go to 85,000 and just stop? Especially considering it was getting so low. By the way, I already know though, anytime a video, so average view duration has value up to a certain point, because if it's a winning video and the algorithm loves it, it goes and shows it to your audience first, obviously, typically, or people that are interested in it. And then what it does is starts experimenting with other audiences. So as it's experimenting, it doesn't know how well it will perform. So the average view duration goes down.
Yeah.
And as that goes down, guess what? It keeps going to a point where like it hits a certain threshold, and it's not an arbitrary number. It's not like 5 minutes or 6 minutes or 2 minutes. It's just whatever is proving to the algorithm this is not worth it compared to this other video that can fill this slot, right? And it's not always a video about katsu curry. It could be something else that's just going to scratch the itch of this kind of viewer. So that's kind of what I see in this. I'm curious what your thoughts are when you break it down, but that's why that average view duration went way down, because it was pushing it out to other audiences that maybe don't have any relationship with me or context with me, or really didn't care as much, but they were willing to watch even if it was for a short amount of time.
Yeah, in fact, I have a bit of evidence for that, which is that 70% of the viewers on that video were brand new viewers to your channel, whereas your average is kind of like 50%, I would say, maybe even lower than that. And so, your videos are always getting further reach. I mean, it's evidenced by the fact that your channel's, doing well and it's kind of growing over time, right? But this one, it is reaching a much wider audience, like to the point where it's dominating the number of views. So maybe it just sort of ran out of steam as far as that goes in terms of whatever metrics YouTube is using to do that. Any other final words on that before we get to the kind of close out here?
On my average view duration going up, this is the thing. It is harder to make longer videos like that, because I have to commit more time. So instead of me doing one of the reason I'm doing less is because I have to dedicate like a good portion of my day to make those longer vlogs. It's still just as easy. It's just more time. And for my editor, it means that, what he could have done in half an hour might take him like an hour and a half. Like, by the way, today, the video, I don't know if we want to talk about this. I put up my first collaboration video with another YouTube channel called Asian Verified. The title right now is This Costco is Asian Verified, hence his name or whatever. And the video is 59 minutes long. I didn't even know it was going to be that long, because it was a lot less clips. But that's kind of cool. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with this. Number one, because the collaboration function where it shows up on his channel, or his channel shows up in the thing. It didn't show up on his video, whatever. But secondly, because it's such a long video on a topic that my audience loves, Costco. So I think that this should probably fall in there's another layer to this that my audience doesn't get. Some people say I'm funny or, like corny or whatever, and it's like fun to watch, but not at the level of this guy. So his name is Michael, Asian Verified, super funny guy. And we're both kind of cracking jokes and we had good chemistry. I've never met him in person. It just like happened serendipitous. So
that's great.
I haven't even watched this vlog, by the way. This is what you call a blind upload. But when you vlog in my style, you're going to be so close to being able to upload that content without editing that I trust my editor to just be able to send it. That's what I said. Like, by the way, I was on my phone a little bit more on this podcast because it's in the middle of me doing this. The reason I wanted to upload it is so I could talk about it.
Yeah.
So I could literally real time make comments and tell you. So right now it's already gone over 1,000 views in 30 minutes. This one is not performing in terms of that 1 out of 10 number very high. I think it's like 7 out of 10. In fact, I'm going to kind of refresh it. But what I know is with longer videos, this happens almost across the board. It always takes some time. It always takes some time, even with other people's channels. When you do longer videos, what happens, it'll be, and if you don't know, 10 out of 10 is the worst performing video in your last 10. 1 out of 10 is your best performing. It'll start off, like in my case, it's starting off at 7 out of 10, but I already see the momentum getting there. I bet you it will go up to probably like 4 out of 10, maybe 3 out of 10. Now, if it goes to 1 out of 10, that'd be amazing. I'm not counting on it, but still, I don't even overthink that. I mean, this video has actually I just look at my analytics in the first hour, 1.5 thousand views. And so for me, I think that's pretty good. I've done way better in the past, but I believe in the next couple of days, this thing will actually start cruising.
Yeah, I'm really excited to follow up on that next week and talk about what the collaboration feature kind of reflection is for you, because this is the first time, like you said, that you've used this feature. I do want to say also, by this time next week, that we will be in the middle of the Vlogging Academy Challenge. This is my last opportunity to bring it up to this audience before we actually get started. So if you want to join us, right now is the time to put it in your to-do list app, to go to the website, to do whatever it is that your process is to make sure you remember to do it. So if you have any interest in joining us for the Vlogging Academy Challenge, you can go to vloggingacademy.com/challenge or click the link in the description. Benji, you want to close us out?
For sure. I mean, for anybody listening to this, it's the end of the year. I'm doing this challenge because I know every creator wants to do more on YouTube or wants to start a YouTube channel. And I really believe that vlogging is a way. But even beyond what I can help you with or doing vlogging as content, I've always said this, but it's more true than ever. YouTube has so much potential to blow up to whole new levels, whether you're a beginner or a seasoned creator, or you've already blown up on YouTube and you think your best days are behind you. If you're thinking like you want to go longer form content, right? Longer vlogs, longer videos, or you want to do live streaming, I am telling you, with people watching more and more television, and that television being YouTube, there's going to be new levels that creators are going to hit that we've never seen. And if you want to take advantage of that, you need to plant the seed by trusting yourself, being forgiving of yourself, because you're not going to be perfect. You're going to get videos that don't get views, but contrast that with people that are trying to perfect things, have high production, and still not getting views.
Or burnout and dropout.
It's all over the place right now. And so you just need to do it. Kind of like put the blinders on. I suggest like 30 days of uploading as much as you can. Really have to experiment. You still want certain guardrails, and this is why my challenge will help you to have those guardrails. You still want to be able to jumpstart your experience. Again, that's what I'm going to be coaching you on. But regardless, do the damn thing. Do as much as possible in January, and just know that that's required in this new era, the new television era that I talk about. And of course, I think vlogging is a way to do it for everybody, including beginners. But what you'll be planting the seed for will be so crazy in terms of the opportunities, money you could make, the fame you can have, and just all the options you'll attribute or have at your fingertips because you started right now. And whatever you did in the past, it doesn't matter. It's what you do today moving forward to take advantage of this new era, which I call the TV era of YouTube.
Our thanks to the students of Vlogging Academy and to the people who have joined the challenge starting in January. As always, we will see you next week. Happy New Year to everybody, and we're excited to see you on the other side.